the owner's name? Steve
Ballmer.
Yeah, he's just happy.
Oh my gosh, he did it again! Oh my gosh, Cruz, come on.
He has
the guy who does the crazy arms, dances and stuff. Oh my gosh. Oh man. You know it's getting toward the end of the pod when I'm starting to throw that crap around. It's time for Inside Sports, episode number 9 of season 3. It's Jordan Cruz, it's Howard Winter, it is Ryan Greaser, and I was going to call him Editor Will, but based on all the stuff that he's doing behind the scenes, could we come up with, is he Executive Producer Will?
I think at this point he would be.
Executive Producer Will. He does a lot behind the scenes and he will continue to do more.
Yeah.
So shout out to EP Will. We'll call him that from now on. Let's get into Saluki Sports. I'm not going to reiterate the fact that it hasn't been a great season, even though by saying that I kind of just did. Volleyball got a win over the weekend over Indiana State, and I do just want to apologize to the whole of Saluki Sports fandom. I promised last week that every sport would go undefeated, football because they don't play. And I said soccer would go 2-0. I said volleyball would go 2-0. Well, volleyball is the only team that won this weekend, and it was a victory over Indiana State on Saturday, which means they lost to Evansville on Friday night. Both games were in 5 sets. Both were extremely disappointing. Howard, I'll let you start off with this because we were talking about it a little beforehand, but I've mentioned every week that we are one bad loss away from completely recalibrating the expectations on this team. Do you think we've reached that point in the season?
I do. Going into this weekend, and you end up losing a game during a weekend where the 2 teams that you faced had a combined 3 wins. So that's just a bad look. And honestly, you got my hopes up going into the beginning of this year with seeing the progression of certain players and the expectations that they have for themselves, the coaches that have set for them, and we see a struggle of consistency. I think is the big thing. There was a great outside hitter performance for us this week in terms of Annabelle Sulish and Kelly Franklin, but we haven't had that for the continuity of the season, and we still lost the game even with their performance being up to par. We saw Anna Jaworski have a huge game, and as well as Emma Sturminska. It's just I think we do have to recalibrate expectations. At this point, you're 10-10 through 20 games, and it's those games against those teams, good teams, don't go to 5 sets with both of them, especially not losing. If you win one of those games, then you feel better about yourself a little bit, even though you're disappointed in the totality of it. But walking away with only 1 win out of that set and going to 5 sets with both of them is a tough look, a tough feeling. Obviously, the team isn't happy with themselves.
So there's so many different ways I could look at this team right now. I'll ask Ryan a quick question before I do that, though. Am I jumping the gun and looking toward 2025 already? Because a lot of our core pieces right now are freshmen. I've talked at length about the impact that Avery Paris and Eva Krakowski have had as freshmen. Am I too crazy because of this past weekend's results to kind of start looking toward into the future a little bit?
I don't think you are, and that's really kind of only natural for a sports fan to do anyway. If your team isn't performing how you want to in the current time, you're always going to look towards the future, especially for this team, with it being really having a young core in place. They're not maybe the guys this year, but there's obviously signs of potential for the next 3 years, I guess, because they're freshmen now. But it doesn't feel wrong. It doesn't feel wrong. I think you can still enjoy and be excited about what they have left for the rest of the year because the talent is there. They could go on a run, although it doesn't look overly likely. They still could, but it's not wrong to look into the future. It's never wrong to look into the future.
Yeah, I had a chance to catch up with one of the players at Walmart, believe it or not, on Sunday, and she was telling me, and one of the crazier things about this weekend, which is just wild, is Evansville has a player who I've nicknamed the Ashton Ginty of college volleyball. Her name is Julia Cardona. She is second in the entire country in kills, and kills per set. And it's funny, one of the coaches was telling me this before they played the game. They just go to her every single time. And I think she had 88 attacks. On Friday night, she had 37 kills. Yeah, she is ridiculously good. And the player that I was talking to was like, I don't know why she is still at Evansville.
Seriously.
I mean, and I understand NIL is not as prevalent maybe in college volleyball, but you would think at the highest levels, no?
For sure.
I guess the only explanation is if you just want to be the number one, I guess that would be why
It's a
you
good
stay.
place to do it.
Build a legacy, be loyal, like you said.
You're also not going to win games though, and
Yeah.
you're not going to go play in the NCAA tournament. Now they're doing better this year than they have in years past, but I don't know. But she is unbelievable though. She's very much all or nothing. Like, she rarely ever like tapped the ball over. It was always just smacking it every single time, which did lead to a lot of smacks straight into the net, even when she was serving as well. But she was certainly a sight to see, and we just had no answer for it early on. We went down 2-0 in that match. Won the next two, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to do another one of these reverse sweeps again. But she's just too good. She basically won that game by herself. And then on Saturday, we play Indiana State. We go up 2-0. I'm thinking, okay, there's a sweep. And then we lose the next two sets 25-23. So then that's when I started to think about next year already. So I'm like, Indiana State's got all the momentum. If we blow this game, I think the season's over. Thankfully, we came out in set 5 and locked it down. Like Howard mentioned, shout out to Kelly Franklin and Annabelle Sulish. They were piling up the stat sheet. I think on Saturday, I think Annabelle had 20 kills, Kelly had 19, and then Kelly had 19 digs, Annabelle had 17. So they were really putting it together. We almost had 2 players for the 2020 match, which would have been insane. So shout out to them, and Anna Jaworski. I thought she had a really nice bounce back of the week. She played really well defensively, I noticed as well, even in that Evansville game, digging out a lot of those Julia Cardona hits, which I thought was pretty impressive to see. So in terms of the scope of the season, right, they're 10-10, they're 3-6 of the conference, which currently sits them at 9th. Now, they're 1 game back of Valpo, who is in 7th, who we've already beaten. And then Evansville is a half game lead ahead of us just because they haven't played the same amount of games yet. But that one extra game they need to play is against Indiana State, a game that I think Evansville would win, or a match, excuse me. So let's just say that they're a game ahead of us. And because we only play Evansville once this season, that loss is even worse, basically. So we're going to have to start scoreboard watching, I think, a little bit as we get toward the end of the season. In terms of making that top 8 to get to the conference tournament, I didn't think that was going to be a problem at the end of the season, but I think it is now. We're going to need to upset somebody, and I think that starts this weekend with Belmont and Murray State. Belmont wouldn't be as much of an upset, but Murray State definitely would. I think they're a team that has the potential. I believe they beat UIC this past weekend. So they're pretty good. That's going to be a challenge. So we need to at least go 1-1 though. I think let's just start with that, and if we can steal a win against Murray State, then I think we'll be headed in the right direction. So there's SIU volleyball. Like I said, we played Belmont on Friday, Murray State on Saturday. Both of those games will be on ESPN+. Now over to a team that is slowly but surely kind of sliding down the path, if you will. Soccer lost 2 games this past week. They lost to Missouri State 1-0 on Thursday, and then on Sunday 3-0 to Belmont. Ryan Greaser, what the heck happened this weekend?
It's just been a rough go at it lately. The offense that we talked about last week has not materialized. Like, the shots are still there, but I was kind of optimistically talking about it last week. Like, oh, more opportunities, they have better chances to score. Well, it's not happening. They got shut out in both of those games. The defense was there against Missouri State. It was not against Belmont. The biggest thing that stands out to me still is they've played 16 games this season, and they are still constantly shuffling lineups. Like, I think that it's a lot of games to go back through, and I haven't done it entirely, but they've started a different lineup in almost every game. And I understand that you're trying to find something that works. Like, that's fine early in the season, but once you get to this point, I feel like it's a disservice to the players because they can't get into any kind of rhythm at that point. Like, offense is so much rhythm based in soccer. Like, you're either feeling it or you're not. And it just doesn't, to me, feel like players are being given the chance outside of like a Mackenzie Bunch who's playing like the entire game to really get into that flow state, I guess. And it's been tough to watch them fall. They were as high as I think 4th in the conference. They're down to 8th right now, and they're just falling fast. Really, I wouldn't say no signs of life because they did have a couple early attempts against Belmont where it was that close. They just couldn't convert. And I wouldn't say it's troubling because they're still better than we expected them to be this year. Like, this season is still a success in my book. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
they do still have a chance to tie the wins record. It'll be a tie, not an overall, like, take it, but they can still do it. This doesn't feel like a failure to me, especially with it being Coach Orr's first year kind of building his program. It's just unfortunate that it's kind of fallen the way that it has.
Absolutely. And as the season just went on, then you create bigger expectations as the team starts to play better. And now they start to fall short of it. Then you come away with that feeling of disappointment. But overall, they've had a great season. I think they're still trying to find that balance of offense and defense is the biggest thing. Like, defense was something they could put their hat on. So, I mean, then you're like, okay, we need to find a way to create offense and actually beat teams instead of just tying it, how they've been doing most of the year. But I think it could be a matchup thing for Coach Orr. That would be something interesting to ask him. Is that what he's doing? Is that just something that he'll always be accustomed to doing, and not having that lineup that you put out there every single game? And I think that, hey, you got 2 games left. This season's not over for sure. It's been a disappointing week or so, but there's time to go out there and still run the table a little bit, and they've shown that they can beat some teams, and if they just play their style, I think they can.
Yeah, I think they've earned the right to have a down week or two, given the fact that they've seemingly carried the fall sports this year.
Yeah.
So like they said, 2 games this week, Drake on Thursday, and then at Evansville on Sunday. And then, of course, the other sport we always talk about is football, but they were on a bye last week. Howard, do you want to give us a quick tidbit on this weekend's game at Indiana State? Seems like most of the sports are playing Indiana State lately.
Yeah.
So give us a quick couple things on this game, what we should expect on both sides of the ball.
Well, both of these offenses, I'll say, are pretty lackluster overall. 9th and 10th in the MVC in terms of scoring offense and rushing offense. Also 8th and 9th in the MVC in scoring defense. Indiana State is last in passing offense, and with a SIU passing defense that is second in terms of most yards allowed with 244 a game. MVC doesn't throw the ball that much. Honestly, if you look at it, 244 being second is pretty eye-opening. But still, like, this should be a game where both the units in terms of offense and defense should be able to create. Even with Jay Curry starting, I expect them to have their best performance under him at behind center. And defensively, can they build off of what they did against North Dakota State? Like we talked about last, that was probably their best defensive performance in terms of factoring an opponent and the balance in terms of stopping the run and through the air. And can they get guys back from injury? I don't know what kind of injury updates there are presently, but Colin Bohannon or Dewey Green just continuing to build. And this season is probably a loss. With DJ status up in the air, are they even going to bring him back at that point in the season? But just continue to build. Indiana State is also 2-5, just like you. So you're definitely not out of this one by any means.
Definitely not. Ryan Greaser, I mean, how much does a win this weekend tell us? I mean, is there much more we can learn about the team at this point? I think that's a better way to phrase that question.
To me, there really isn't. Just because you look at this team, this is all about Jay Curry at this point. Like, I understand, like, DJ, he's only a junior this year, and so is Hunter Simmons. But I don't know if DJ, could he get another medical redshirt? Because that was, the second or third game?
I would think so, yeah.
I would think he could get one. So he might have 2 years left. And if he is, then this whole point is moot. But Jay Curry getting important reps as a freshman, regardless of how he plays, I think that's still something that should be looked upon as, like, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, if we're 2-5, we're not going anywhere. So we should focus on getting young guys in, celebrating the older ones, like a lot of those linemen, Chase Evans, the stalwarts who've been here for a long time. Find a way to send them off well, but also to really get your young guys in. And kind of like Jordan was saying for volleyball, look ahead to next year. Like, it's that time of the season. We can be optimistic about what we have left, although it's hard to be, because after Indiana State, we still have to play South Dakota State. And what's the other game that we still have left?
I think Missouri,
Missouri, and Murray, yeah.
I mean, we should beat Murray State. But Mo State, they beat ISU this weekend. So this could be a rough end of the season, so we just have to be happy with young players getting snaps, I think, at this point.
Yeah. Saturday's game against Indiana State is kicking off at 12. Is that 12 Eastern or 12 Central?
I think it's 12 Central.
Actually, no, I think are they Central time zone? No, I think
No, it's in here.
I think it's.
I was looking at this weekend actually because the volleyball game on Saturday started at 4, even though it starts at 5. The northwest and southwest parts of Indiana are still Central time zone. And everything else is So like Evansville and the Gary area up near Chicago. That's central, but the entire other state of Indiana is eastern, so time zone stuff.
So
I
it's
think
12 Central.
So 12 central. Okay. When did we change the clocks, by the way? Is
That's like 2
that's
weeks.
coming up, right? Oh, okay.
So we get an hour in fall, right?
Yep.
Fall.
It's just
What
fall
did they say?
back.
Fall back, spring forward.
So it's just dark all the time.
Can't wait for that, honestly, though. Nice to get an extra hour. Those 2 days where like if you feel like you get an extra hour of sleep, it'd be awesome.
I need the weather to go back to. It's starting to warm up again.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I don't know. Shorts or pants every day is a struggle. Anyway, that's more of a dog treats thing. Let's move on to the Told You So segment. It's time for everyone's favorite segment. Told You So. And listen, somebody on this podcast told you so more than others did, because we have a new leader in the King Tut's Cup standings. Ryan Greaser, 8-1 last week, defeating Howard and I. I went 4-5, and Howard went 3-6. We got to step it up. We can't let Ryan hold that top spot for too long, but he is 36-22. He went 3-1 in college football, and for the second week in a row, went 5-0 in the NFL. This dude is absolutely on fire. Ryan, you are seeing the board so clearly right now. I'm 35-23, just one game behind him at 60%, 60.3%, and Howard 33-25 at 56.9%. I mean, for our lowest total right now to be 8 games above 500, that's pretty darn good. So I'd say as a pod, I think we're doing okay. But we could be better though. We could always.
I said last week I think we had very tough games to pick.
Mm-hmm.
I said if somebody went undefeated, they should be crowned. Ryan,
We
you came
darn close.
You came pretty
So
close to
close.
getting crowned. I mean, you had some, especially college. Like
Yeah.
you put on a show.
Shout out to the Texas Longhorns. They prevented Ryan from having a clean 9-0 sweep.
That was a disappointing game to watch.
Let's just get right into that, man. And listen, I'm gonna get a little philosophical here. Like I said it 3 or 4 weeks ago, right after Bama beat Georgia. We talked about in this podcast. What does the second half of that game mean? Because Georgia looked like a completely different team. Bama looked like a completely different team. That was a sign of things to come, and that's proving more and more true every single week. Because Georgia went into Texas, smacked them around, especially on the defensive line. It was one of those games where there were these guys just playing on Georgia's defense. So like, where did that freak come from? This freakish athletic dude just comes out of nowhere. Jalen Walker, number 11 for Georgia, was in the backfield on seemingly every single play. He's just a massive dude who's extremely fast. And then, of course, Michael Williams, who I've talked about in this podcast. Both of these guys actually were injured to begin the season and are starting to get healthy again. And they went in there. Texas really stood no shot. So how about Georgia, man? I mean, that was great. Now, Carson Beck still looks really, really shaky. I believe he threw 3 picks in the game again. That makes me question them overall as a team a little bit, but I think the defense has found their swagger again after a couple of rough weeks. And that, the main takeaway from this game was the Texas fan base, who really, I feel like they made 2 decisions for the Texas, really for the game, right? The first one was Arch Manning coming in late in the second quarter, and the stadium goes nuts when he comes in, right? And it was clear that Texas's problems did not lie at quarterback position. It was on the offensive line. It was getting pushed around all day by Georgia, like I just mentioned. And then in the second half, I believe it was late third quarter, Carson Beck throws another terrible pick, right? But then they call DPI on the outside receiver. And, Steve Sarkisian's going nuts, as he should. The fans start throwing cans and bottles on the field. Delay the game, and during that delay, they gave enough time for the refs to talk to each other, and they switched the call. I've never seen that before. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, shoot, if I was a fan base and I saw that happen, I might employ that strategy again. Now, I will say, they ended up flipping it to what was probably the right call.
Yeah, for sure.
So Kirby Smart was saying in the postgame press conference, like, this is a precedent now where you can just get away with this stuff if you don't like a call. And so that was interesting. And then, honestly, at that point, I'm like, Texas might have a shot to come back and win. But the Georgia defense was not going to let that happen. Like I said, they dominated in a game where we all picked Texas to win. We hadn't seen Texas tested all season. Texas tested, wow, that is a tongue twister. All season long. Like, their 2 best wins were at Michigan and Oklahoma, who we now know are terrible teams. Shout out to Oklahoma for getting beat by 30 by South Carolina on Saturday. I mean, that game was 21-0 in the fourth quarter. That was unbelievable. But yeah, great win for the Georgia Bulldogs. I cannot wait to see where they ended up in the Daily Egyptian Casters Bowl. We'll get to that in a second. few other notes from last week. BYU. I talked so much crap about them on this pod. I still don't think they're very good because they needed an unbelievable last-second play against Oklahoma State on Friday night to win that. Did you guys see that last play? The guy was, Oklahoma State, what are you doing? Just tackle him, man. Terrible. But BYU is still undefeated. I believe they're 7-0 now.
Yep.
Ridiculous. Another team that is really playing with fire is Miami.
Oh, yeah.
They beat Louisville, so they still won 52-45. They were never really in danger of losing, but they're on that edge. You saw it a couple weeks ago with Cal too. It's like they're really close. Their defense is very, very questionable.
Oh, yeah. They're in the shootouts every week. I mean, they got Michael Irvin squatting on the side,
Yeah, they do.
praying and all that stuff. I mean, I feel like one of these weeks, maybe when they play a tougher competition, they'll go down. But like that offense, it's compensating for the defense. So yeah, shout out to them.
Shout out to them. And then the game that was on our slate, Tennessee Volunteers defeated the Alabama Crimson Tide. I believe that was a Ryan Greaser switch game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was a Ryan Greaser switch. So I'm great at giving other people switches, but I can't switch games myself. That's 2 games that I've given Ryan Greaser so far this season, and look at that, he's above me in the leaderboard now. And Tennessee wins the battle of what I've named the extremely flawed, but also extremely talented SEC teams game over Alabama. Howard, I know heading into this week, you were still kind of high on Alabama despite the terrible performances. Do you still feel some of the sentiment now? Like, how much has your Alabama stock gone down these last couple of weeks?
The thing is, like, I feel like it's something a little different. Like we talked about that Georgia-Bama game, but the defense did not look good. Jalen Milroe did not play well in this game.
He was terrible
at all. So going forward, they need to have a get-right game in all facets. They need to beat somebody comfortably. And we'll get to this game later when they play Missouri this weekend. I'm not too confident in them having that get-right game necessarily. So I don't know. Bama's falling now. I think they're down 15 in the AP poll. So it's going to be a tough sledding for them. And there was some questionable stuff by them this game as well. Like that 22 going for it.
Yeah, oh my God.
I don't know.
And then Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard doing the fadeaway jumper on the sneak too. Nick Saban would have probably kicked him off the team for that. I mean, seriously, what? I don't want to say that, like, okay, well, you have to do things a certain way in order to win. Obviously, that's not true, but clearly there's something to putting a hard-nosed culture around a team. And then when you take that away, that completely removes the identity. Like, what is Alabama's identity right now?
Talent is their identity.
I guess talent, but like
talent doesn't win you games though.
Right.
We see a lot of talented teams that you go into teams that are better coached, better prepared, more focused, and they win those games. So talent is not the end all be all. Alabama's got some stuff to figure out, and I don't know exactly how confident I am in them getting it done going forward.
And I think Ryan Williams being this far and away the best receiver on that team is not the flex you think it is. He shouldn't be that much better than their 3rd, 4th, and 5th year guys that they have, and he is, unfortunately. So that's a problem in Alabama. They're both lines of scrimmage have been getting pushed around by teams that are not nearly as talented. So that's certainly a concern. I'm not as high on Tennessee after this win, although Nico did finally make a couple of really huge plays in this game that basically won the contest, in my opinion. So shout out to Tennessee. They get a big win. The second time in 3 years they've beaten Bama, which it's the second time in like the last 17 years. So that's a huge win for them. They took down the goalpost again, threw it in the river. So shout out to them. They didn't have to go nearly as far as Vanderbilt did to find a river to throw it in. Iowa State won another game. They're still in the top 10, kind of a BYU situation where they threw 2 pick sixes against UCF, and they still found a way to win, though. So to me, that's kind of impressive, honestly, when you play terrible and you still find a way to win. So shout out to the Cyclones. Indiana Hoosiers, baby.
Indiana's fantastic.
Indiana's unbelievably good. Like, they're just a good team. They might be really good. They may not just be good. And listen, Nebraska's nothing special, but for them to win 56-7, my goodness. You know who else is a good team? Colorado Buffaloes are a good team. I hate to say it. They're a good team, and they're so good this year. They didn't even play Travis Hunter in the second half of this game because he was resting, I believe, his shoulder or something. Maybe I think he may have had a concussion too. They didn't even play him in the second half against Arizona, and they still won convincingly. So Colorado's a good team. I think they're definitely going to factor into the Big 12 championship race. And then my favorite result of the weekend, I'm sure Ryan Greaser's favorite as well. The Illinois Fighting Illini defeated the Michigan Wolverines 21-7. Let me ask Howard this first. I think I know what you think. Did we like the throwback unis that Illinois was wearing?
I did. I like the helmets.
The helmets were
especially.
sick.
I really like the helmets. I would have liked maybe I don't know, maybe a little bit different for the people that really like them. We'll talk about your Packers later. I like those jerseys too, but I like the throwback jerseys. Doing that one game, it's unique. That's the biggest thing. You don't really see that too often. All the process that goes into, especially the helmets. So yeah, I mean Illinois, I think it's more about Michigan.
Yeah.
Than
It
Illinois
is
for sure.
100%.
They so dysfunctional. I mean, how many turnovers did they have in this game? To where
At least 3 or 4.
It was really bad to watch. Ryan, what was your reaction to this game specifically? Just everything that encompassed it.
Joy for starters, because we came so close 2 years ago to beating Michigan when it was peak Michigan. And that was such a heartbreak of a game. This one has been circled on the calendars for 2 years. They were coming to Memorial Stadium, and we were going to beat them. And we did it. Now, Michigan's quarterback room is probably the worst in the country. We talked about this during that game. Jake Tuttle has to be probably the worst FBS quarterback I've ever watched.
But he's the best they have.
Which is incredible.
He's literally the best they have.
That's insane.
He's the best they have. I mean, apparently, I guess. I don't know.
This 25-year-old who, he's just underthrowing, overthrowing, behind, in front of. He couldn't hit the broad. Sound like a grandpa here. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He doesn't know where the ball's going when it comes out of his hands. It's just to chuck it up. Oh, they're somewhere. It's probably not going to get to him. But
you don't know a crazy thing about Jack Tuttle. I mean, this is just, and we're doing this now when we've got all these college quarterbacks who have been in the game for 7 years now or whatever. Jack Tuttle was Michael Penix's backup at Indiana.
Oh, wow.
That's how long he's been in college football, and it was probably before that too. Yeah, that dude is terrible, and it is kind of a shame. They have a guy on the team, Alex Orji, who he's like a worse Jalen Milroe, but you've at least got that threat of his legs, right? And the fact that they still couldn't make that even kind of work, which Michigan's a running team, right? Or at least so we thought. Donovan Edwards.
He's looked awful this year.
I mean, he was the freaking cover of the NCAA football game. He was hyped up as this, and he's been terrible. He's not even the best running back on his team anymore. Mullins is so much better than him in almost every single way. So yeah, shout out to the Illini, man. I watched most of that game. That was pretty fun to see. So yeah, another great week of college football. We've got another great one coming ahead. But first, it's time for the reveal of week 2 of the Daily Egyptian Casters Poll, as I'm calling it. And there were a lot of surprises on here. I cannot wait to see your guys' reaction. I have not yet put it in the doc. So this is a blind reveal, and we do have a new number 1 team. But it wasn't an all 3 consensus, though. I'll just tell you that. So here we go. Starting at number 10. A new addition to the top 10 of the Daily Egyptian Casters Poll, the Texas A&M Aggies. They come in ranked number 10. They got 17 points. And for those who don't understand the ranking, this is not a rank, or actually it's not a ranking. It's a power rating of who we think would have the best chance at beating the rest of the teams in the country on a neutral field, right? You know, the other thing that's funny, we all had the same combination of 15 teams too.
Really?
Yeah.
So there's no 16th or 17th teams that also received votes this week. It's straight up 15, but obviously I condensed these into a top 10. So Texas A&M at 17 with 17 points is your number 10 team. At number 9, a team that we have much lower in the AP poll does. The Penn State Nittany Lions. They're third in the AP poll. They got 21 points this week. They are tied for 8th in our poll with the Clemson Tigers. So you could say either one of these teams being there. I think they both were ranked 7th at one point in one of our 3 rankings. So they pretty much just tied out there. At number 7, with 26 points, the LSU Tigers. They have a big game this week. So we have a 7-10 matchup this week when it comes to our rankings. They've been looking much, much better. They went on the road and beat Arkansas this week. I cannot wait to watch them play against the Aggies this weekend. Number 6, this team, I think we could describe them as radioactive. It's the Miami Hurricanes. They dropped 1 spot. They were at number 5 last week. They got 30 points after their win against Louisville. So they draw. I don't think we think anything too different about them. But they do drop 1 spot because of a team that got a huge win last week, up to number 5 in this week's rankings, is the Tennessee Volunteers. They got 32 points. And so we're really going to see from them over these next few weeks whether they belong in this category or not. But they have one of the better wins so far this season, so they're up at number 5. Team that lost last week, the Texas Longhorns, dropped all the way down to number 4. Actually, it's not that far.
Yeah, it's not.
Not that far. They were the consensus number 1 team last week, and listen, while it was a bad loss in a game they never really stood a chance in, they still have a lot of talent and they still showed some fight. So Texas at number 4. Now here's where it gets really, really interesting, because this team at number 3, we all have the same combination of top 3, but actually no, we don't. I lied about that.
The same 3 teams.
It's not actually. It's not. I forgot about one team that. We'll explain the differences here in a minute. The Oregon Ducks are number 3. The Oregon Ducks had 40 points, and they did not receive a first place vote. Obviously, they have probably the best win in the country right now over Ohio State, and they are ranked number 1 in the AP right now. I think deservedly so. The number 2 team receiving 1 first place vote, the Georgia Bulldogs, went on the road to beat Texas this week, and I think it would be easy to say that they were number 1. A, had they not lost to Bama, and B, if Carson Beck didn't look so shaky. I think that's part of it. Ryan Greaser had the Georgia Bulldogs ranked number 1 this week, which means that the number 1 team in the Daily Egyptian Casters poll is a team with a loss. It is my and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Is number 1. Howard and I both voted Ohio State number 1. They got 44 points. Ryan had them at number 2, so it's not like you disagree too much.
Yeah, I didn't drop them to 10.
No.
Still 2.
So there's a lot of key differences. I'm just going to expose you guys, because I think you guys putting Tennessee at 3 and 4 respectively is insane. Ryan had them at 3. Howard had them at 4. I mean, did they really convince you guys that much over this last weekend with the win over Bama?
The thing is, there's so much parity in college football right now in terms of those top teams. I think there are things that you can poke at with all of these teams in terms of things that you need to get that fixed before the playoffs started. I'm not too sure about this, like especially with Carson Beck in Georgia, but for Tennessee specifically, it's the win. I take straight the schedule in it, but also that those wins that you do have, those signature wins, those are important factoring in. It's really tough. That middle portion of the rankings, because all those teams if they feel so similar in terms of what they have done. They have their highs, they have that one low that you set in the back of your mind. So I don't know. Ryan had them at 3 though, so talk to me, Ryan.
I did. It's kind of the same boat. I wouldn't say that they were so convincing. Now, they showed that they can win. Now, Alabama's not the Alabama of years past. We've talked about that at length. But if you can still defend your home turf against Alabama, you beat them once in the previous 17 years. So, I don't know. They just have a feeling like this team. They're not going to win the Natty.
Yeah.
No way. I don't think they'll even make the semifinal.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But
the fact that you have them above Oregon, to me, is crazy. But
Yeah.
again, we have seen Oregon. Let's not forget, Oregon really, really struggled to begin the year and played their A+ game against Ohio State. They won that game by 1 point.
Yeah.
In a game where Ohio State fumbled the bag.
It had to be a perfect game.
Yeah. Right.
Now, that being said, they beat Ohio State playing a perfect game. Like, if you can play a perfect game against the number 2 team in the country, who's to stop you?
Right.
So that does kind of make my ranking look bad. I'll admit that as I lay this out now. But I'm going to stand by it. I'm standing on business. I like Tennessee to an extent.
As for the teams that did not make the top 10, Notre Dame ended up being 15th. Howard had them at 14. Ryan also had them 14. I had them at 13. Not too much of a change there. BYU had 9. We're still not going to put them in the top 10 yet. Howard 13, Ryan 12, and B 14. Iowa State, again, a team that just squeaked by last week. They ended up at 13. This is a team that I think would have been in our top 10 if there had not been injury news today about Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke, who is out for an indefinite period of time. Now, their coach came out and said that he will be back in the regular season, whatever that means. They do have a couple of interesting games over the next couple of weeks. So they play Washington this week, and they go on the road against Michigan State, who got a big win over Iowa. That is a trap game to me, the Michigan State game, because I believe it comes right before, or maybe a couple of weeks before they play Ohio State. So let's just see. We'll monitor that situation. But if I got confirmation that Curtis Rourke was going to be playing, I probably would have had them in my top 10. And then I can't believe I'm saying this season, but the Alabama Crimson Tide were not in our top 10. They ended up at 11.
It's unreal.
I believe. Let me look just to make sure. Ryan still had it in his top 10 at 9, but I mean, what's the difference between 9, 11, and 12 at this point? I mean, it doesn't really matter. They've been pretty disappointing, and I think they're in a good spot at 11. They have a big game against LSU in a couple of weeks, so if they are a good team and just have been playing terrible, they have a chance to earn that back. So real quick, before we get into the games of the week, I do want to mention that there is a poll out there, in talking about rankings, on the greatest website of all time. If you're a sports fan, it's called Sports Reference. Everybody loves the website. They have a rating system on here. It's called the Simple Rating System. And I'm just going to read this straight from their website. Obviously, we're not sponsored or anything. It's a rating that takes into account average point differential and strength of schedule. Right? Those seem like the two most important things when you're taking into a rating, right? And so right now, this is their top 10. We'll start at 1. Ohio State, Texas, Oregon. They still have Bama at 4. I think, and they have their offensive rating as one of the best in the country. I think they're really valuing that Georgia game.
Yeah.
When you see how well they did against that Georgia defense, seeing what happened to Texas as well. Indiana's at 5 for them, and again, based on how much they've dominated on the field, I don't think that's too crazy of a thing to say so far. Georgia right behind at 6. Now this is the one that confuses me. I don't understand how this team could be ranked 7th. They have Notre Dame at 7.
Oh no.
Where is that coming? I really don't know. They have their defensive rating pretty high. They haven't played a team worth a crap.
Exactly.
They played Georgia Tech last week with their backup quarterback, so that wasn't very impressive. Miami 8, LSU 9, Clemson 10. So I just think it's interesting to see that kind of a rating where it doesn't get too deep into the numbers. It's just average point differential combined with your strength of schedule. So that's pretty interesting. It's probably my favorite poll in the entire world. Time for the picks. Few games I want to give us honorable mentions. I almost put this game as a 4th game on the slate, but the problem is I don't think it'd be a little dishonest for me to say that I've watched a lot of UNLV and Boise State this year. I know Ashton Ginty is appointment television, but he doesn't even come on the channels around here, so I wouldn't even know where to find him for the most part. But Boise State is playing UNLV on Friday night in the Taj Mahal, or the Haj Mahal, excuse me, as we like to say for Haj Malik Williams, the UNLV quarterback. That's going to be an awesome game. Saturday, Notre Dame's playing Navy, and we're entering an interesting discussion here because Army and Navy are both undefeated. They're both in the American Conference. Now, for those who don't know, they play each other every single year the week after conference championships. We're now entering a spot where if they're both undefeated, they would then play the conference championship game and then play the Army-Navy game the week after. I hope that doesn't happen because that's going to create some wild scenarios, and I don't know how they would even do that because that would really, really suck to see. Speaking of the Illinois Fighting Illini, they're on the road this weekend at the number 1 Oregon Ducks in the top 20 matchup. Ryan Greaser, I don't know if you've seen. Do you know what the spread is on this game?
I'm going to guess at least 17.
Oregon minus 25.
Oh, yeah, that seems a little generous.
It kind of reminds us of the Penn State game.
It does.
A little bit.
25, bet the house for them to cover on that.
Well, the last time you got away with saying bet the house.
No, bet the house again. Bet the house again. The disrespect to a top 20 team, bet the house. Now, they are not winning this game. No chance.
Yeah.
But I think that they lose by 3 touchdowns or less, which is still within the spread. They can lose by 21 and still have it be within the spread. 100% they're covering that.
Interesting.
Lock it in. I would bet severe money on this.
So obviously after Alabama beat Georgia the next weekend, they played at Vanderbilt and they lost. Well, this week Texas hosted Georgia. They get to go on the road at Vanderbilt this week and play a Vanderbilt team that has snuck into the top 25. Shout out to the Commodores. I mean, that place is going to be rocking. I don't think, here's the thing. The spread on this game is 18. I think it's just as likely that Texas beats them by 40 as it is that Vanderbilt stays in the game. So that's why I didn't have it on the sheet, but they could definitely win the game. I mean, shoot, who's to say they can't, obviously, with the way Texas looked last week. And then, as I mentioned, Indiana, without their starting quarterback, they host Washington this week. Who knows? I think that's going to be an interesting one to monitor as we go on. We're back to 3 games this week. Game number 1, the Missouri Tigers. Team we haven't talked about in a while, probably for good reason, because they've been one of the more disappointing teams so far. They are 13.5. Talk about a big spread, Ryan Greaser. They are 13.5 point underdogs against Alabama this week. in Tuscaloosa, but as South Carolina showed a couple weeks ago, does that really even matter at this point? I don't think the Bama fans are going to get too hyped up for this game. Now, the spread being that big scares me because I was coming in here ready to pick Mizzou. So I want to let Howard start us off. What are you thinking in terms of this game? And while you're making that pick, I'm going to pull up. This is our bet percentages game of the week. So go ahead. Let's start with the bet percentages. Give me a guess real quick on what you think the public thinks about this game.
65 on the Tigers.
That's about what I wanted to say, but just for the sake of being different, I'm gonna say 60.
It's 56% on Missouri and then 44 on Alabama. Now this is one of those things where like I'm gonna feel stupid if Bama just blows them out because in my head I'll be like, of course that's what it's supposed to be. That being said, Howard, take us through who's winning this game.
It's funny because I feel like I put some stock into both of these teams throughout this season, and they just have not lived up to it. Mizzou has got some serious stuff to figure out. They have not clicked, especially on offense, like at all. Brady Cook has not looked good. He had a nice comeback win against Auburn on Saturday, but like they were definitely in jeopardy of losing that game. And of course, we talked about Alabama. I think a little bit too much, you could say at this point. And it's like Bama's at home. They need a win. Like they need a win. Going to 3 losses. I mean, when was the last time Bama even did that? So I think I'm gonna roll with Bama just as a teaser. I can be swayed on probably all 3 of these games that we got. I mean, this is like I don't know. So we'll see. But like Alabama, they need it, man. They need it so bad.
Yeah,
you're at home. Like I said, Mizzou has looked great. Like if their offense was like we thought it would coming into the season, I would probably roll with the Tigers. But Bama needs this win so bad that I'll probably just stick with them.
I'm thinking of this game in basically the same way I was thinking of the Tennessee game last week. I think something's legitimately wrong with Alabama. And you could say the same about Missouri, but I'm just envisioning in my head, I don't think this place is going to get juiced up for this game at all. You come off of losses to Tennessee and Vanderbilt. The Alabama fans are the most moody fan base on the planet. And they were like that even when Nick Saban was there. I don't think this place is going to be loud at all. I think Missouri's going to come in here and win this game. This is my upset pick of the year. Just based on the spread. Something, I don't know, man. I just think something is definitely wrong with Alabama. I think Missouri last week against Auburn, I think was a little bit of a trap. I'm not making this pick with any confidence, really. I'm just going to stand on business and that I think something is legitimately wrong with Alabama.
I think something can still be wrong with Alabama, but they're still going to beat Missouri.
Okay.
Mizzou has not looked at all how we thought they were going to this year. I think they're lucky that they're still ranked, honestly, because they've had a couple games. I mean, that Auburn game, like Howard was talking about, they win by 4, was not very close.
They were down pretty much the whole game, too.
They're on 7-3, I think.
Yeah.
Which Brady Cook did get hurt.
Right,
so,
right. Yeah.
Then he did come back and lead him. So, I don't know, man. That Bama secondary worries me badly. I mean, if Tennessee, a team that hasn't been able to throw the ball all year, was able to make the plays that they did, and with their running game as well, I think Mizzou can do just the same thing. And I think they've got NFL receivers out there, which I don't think Tennessee does. So,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Say it with your chest.
I don't think Alabama's secondary should worry you as much because if Missouri's quarterback is hurt, I mean, obviously if he came out of the game, he's not 100%. And granted, they do have the receivers to expose a bad secondary.
Right.
That being said, if your quarterback is hurt, I mean, a hobble quarterback can be so detrimental. You're like, oh, he's playing.
Right.
But a lot of times, I think we're starting to see playing a backup is not as bad of a thing as it shouldn't be stigmatized as bad as it is.
Depending on who your backup is.
But a lot of times, I feel like we put so much stock into the starter playing in whatever condition they're in. For that reason, I'm going to roll with Alabama. I think Milroe realizes that he needs to have a good game, especially Jalen Milroe, because he's looked bad.
Yeah.
Every good team they play, he's looked bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of a continuation. He looks worse than last year.
Much worse.
Much worse than last year. And it's just, he's in his head at this point, and I think Howard was talking. They need a get right game. I think this is their get right game.
We were talking about him winning the Heisman after that Jordan game, and now I don't think he's even close in the conversation.
He's not in the conversation.
No, not at all.
It's a tough year to have going into your draft year.
Very tough year. Game number 2, a game that listen, it's ranked versus unranked, but I think that, especially with the spread being what it is, Penn State and Wisconsin. Penn State 6.5-point favorites in Madison. It's going to be a night game on NBC. Ryan, you've made your pick, so go ahead and lead us off on this one.
The spread is surprisingly low on that one. It actually makes me really upset that it's that much lower than it was against Illinois. Illinois was ranked at the time.
Well, this game is in Madison. That game was at Penn State.
I know.
To be fair,
I do know that, but still, Madison. Yes, Camp Randall is a special stadium, but and you know how much I don't like Penn State. I don't believe in Penn State. They're a good team that'll probably make the playoff. They're going to lose the first round of the playoff.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like, they're going to get annihilated in the first round of the playoff. Like, that isn't even a question in my mind. I'm still picking them to beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin has not been inspiring this year. Like, I'm looking at their schedule right now. Fifth in the Big Ten, which isn't terrible, but they beat Rutgers. Ooh, yippee. They beat Northwestern. They haven't beat a good team yet. They got destroyed by Alabama. They lost to USC badly. Beat Purdue 52-6. That's aging better considering how Purdue played Illinois. Rutgers are bad. Northwestern's bad. Like, Wisconsin, no. I just saw what you.
I'm saying Wisconsin, yes. On Wisconsin this week. Listen, we all know this about Penn State. Let's not kid ourselves. We know who Penn State is. Wisconsin's been beating the crap out of teams the last couple of weeks.
Bad teams.
Yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do when you play bad
is.
teams. You're supposed to beat them. Penn State hasn't really been doing that. I think we know who Penn State is, and I think this place is going to be jazzed up. I think Wisconsin, they have a lot more talent at the skill position / defensive backfield than we realize. And those are things that Penn State doesn't do well. Now, their quarterback situation is not great. Tyler Van Dyke got hurt against Alabama earlier this year. I believe it's Braden Locke is their backup. He's looked good enough, I would say. I don't think the quarterback difference is really that big in this game. Now, look, if Penn State wins, I'm not really going to feel stupid because, again, I'm not picking this with too much confidence. But, again, I'm just envisioning this, and I don't think Penn State's going to go in here and win. I think Penn State's extremely flawed. We saw what happened to them against USC a few weeks ago. The USC team that, by the way, talk about a fall-off. The USC Trojans have completely face-planted. And we gave them so many excuses early on in the season, and now they just lost to Maryland and Minnesota in back-to-back weeks. I mean, I understand the grind of a Big Ten schedule, especially against Minnesota and Maryland, the powerhouses that we know they are. So, yeah, man, I really do think that, again, it's not really a pick for Wisconsin. This is a pick against Penn State. So that's why I'm taking the Badgers to win. At night, at home.
I just agree with Ryan in the sense that we know who they are, but I mean, look, they're ranked number 3 in the AP poll, but we know who they are, and at this point,
They're ranked number 9 in the Daily Egyptian Podcasters poll.
see, we know who they
Which
are.
is more fair.
Right.
The world
It's
does
a lot
not.
more
The
fair.
world clearly does not know who they are, but I don't think they'll show who they truly are until the playoffs, like we said, when they lose in the first round inevitably. And I mean, they might go like undefeated and get this number. They might go number 1 a week and get all that hype and then let it down. That's my prediction of it. So I'm taking the Nittany Lions. Oh, but I'm taking the Nittany Lions in this one as well. They'll get everyone's hopes up. They'll probably not lose for the rest of the regular season, but when it comes down to it in the playoffs, I think they'll go down.
Yeah, I don't blame you guys for those picks. I'm really going out on a limb this week, so this could either tank me or this could put me ahead for good, honestly. Last game of the week, and I'll just be honest, this game I have no clue where I'm going.
I completely
Because I loved 2 weeks ago. I was like thinking I was woke on Texas A&M. Like, I think this team's really good, and no one else agrees with me. But now I think everyone's aware of that. That being said, LSU, they've played so much better since their loss to USC in week 1. I mean, it's crazy how both of those teams completely flipped the script on the season. LSU went into Arkansas last week, dismantled them.
Yeah.
That has me hesitating on this game. Now, Texas A&M is favored by 2.5 at home. This will be the ABC game. incredible atmosphere. This is easily the game of the week for me. Ryan, again, you've made your pick. Convince Howard and I of your selection here.
So I made my pick, and again, I was looking at Texas A&M. Like, they're first in the SEC for a reason. Like, they have gone out, they've played their schedule, and they've just won. There's been no question. Really, outside of probably their Arkansas game, no one in Bowling Green. I'm looking at that score, 26-20.
Yeah.
Anyway, a team can have a bad week. Like, pretty much everybody in college football has had a bad week at this point, where there's a team that you should have beat by 30 that stayed within a one-score game. That happens. I don't really put too much into that. I don't know. I just like LSU's wins better. Like, they, again, like you said, they dismantled Arkansas last week. They beat Ole Miss the week before. Now, that was in overtime on a field goal.
Yeah.
So, like, don't feel quite as good. The more I'm talking about it, the more I kind of want to flip to Texas A&M. But
Great freaking game.
I'm standing on business here. I'm gonna stick with LSU. I really like LSU, but
am I gonna go different? Am I gonna be on an island for all three of these games?
I don't know. You might.
I don't want to be, obviously, because I'm picking all underdogs here, especially in those first two games.
Right.
Technically, in this one, I'd be picking a favorite. Although I think where did we have them in our casters pool? I think we had LSU at 7, Penn State at 10. So like LSU is on paper the better team here. Oh, this is tough.
It's very tough.
How were you going? Detroit State LSU.
I didn't pick it.
You haven't picked yet,
These teams are so evenly matched. This is one of the toughest games I've ever played.
Honestly, it is. Honestly,
Seriously, like
I can't.
I'm looking at that game they had 2 weeks ago, against Ole Miss where you won late. Yeah, that was the throw to Kyron Lacy, right?
Yeah.
So I wanna say Aggies. I think I'm gonna go Aggies.
I don't blame you.
I'm gonna join you. I'm going Texas A&M. The more I think about that Ole Miss game, again, Ole Miss is similar to Penn State to me in that like we know who they are.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss should have won that game against LSU
Yeah.
at LSU at night. Right. Well, now we're talking about LSU going at night against A&M. It is weird. I almost wanted to call this a milestone game because, believe it or not, these are the 2 undefeated SEC teams right now. There might be one more, but I think these are the 2 ranked ones. And so this is a weirdly huge game for the rest of the season. The fact that Texas A&M may end up being solely atop the SEC heading into the back half of the season is crazy. And I don't think they're scheduled. Let me look this up real quick.
They have South Carolina, New Mexico State.
Where are these
Auburn,
games at?
Texas. They're on the road to South Carolina, at home for New Mexico State, at Auburn, at home for Texas.
Those 2 games. Okay, so I knew they had Texas on the schedule. Now, at South Carolina, at Auburn, it's going to be very, very interesting because even if they do beat LSU this week, that is a trap game of all trap games against South Carolina next week. So I'm going to go ahead and pick them because they're at home to beat LSU in this game. But that, again, much respect to LSU. I think they're playoff good. I think they're much better than I thought they were. I think this is just a bad matchup for them going on the road to a team that desperately needs a win. Because, like we said, they're ranked number 14 right now. So another unbelievable slate of college football. This is going to mess up our standings for sure. Quickly for college, I'm still ahead at 17-8. Ryan 16-9. Howard 15-10. I mean, this week could change so much. Howard could be leading after this week. It's going to be insane. So make sure you're tuning in on Saturday, watch some college football. But now it's time for the NFL. Ryan Greaser, what do we always start with in the NFL?
We start with winners.
We start with winners, and I don't believe that we've got one team that's on the slate this week. So who are we going to start off with this week? I mean, you could choose either of these teams. Which team won by more?
We won by 20. Oh, yeah, they had a late field goal.
Right, so Seahawks. Take it away, Howard. We're back. We're back, right?
I'm not saying we're back,
We're back
because of who we play this next week, the Buffalo Bills. But for this game against the Falcons, I'm not going to say it's what I expected completely, but I expected us to have their defense pretty handedly, and we did that. We controlled this game early. We didn't get behind. That's the biggest thing. Gino has had to drop back a lot over these first 6-7 games or so, and because we are down, because we are in shootouts, because the defense can't hold on. This game we controlled the rock. We were able to put them in the forcing Kirk Cousins into passing the ball a lot. The biggest thing for me is health as well, because our defensive line is the key to us having good performances defensively. And it's crazy that it's one person in particular who stands out to that, and that's Byron Murphy II. In all 4 games he's played this year, including yesterday, we've won the 3 games in our 3-game losing streak that we lost. He was out for all of them. And just that ability to have that depth at the defensive line position, and be able to rotate guys and give guys rest. Nobody yesterday on the line had over 63% of snaps played. And I think that's something that Mike McDonald really desires in order to keep guys fresh, and so they can actually hold up in the run game a little bit. Bijan, he had his way on one drive late in the second quarter, and I thought that was what their game plan was going to be going forward, because we've struggled to stop the run for the past several years now, but we were able to distance themselves. Gino made some good plays on the touchdowns he threw to Kenneth Walker on the rail route, who had a great game in his flu game on his birthday. Scored 2 touchdowns. Made a great throw to DK in the end zone between, it was like cover 2, good throw between about 4 defenders or something like that. But the defense stepped up, and when you force Kirk Cousins to throw repeatedly, you made him make some mistakes. Boye Mafe, big play, taking him down with the strip sack, and then Derek Hall picked it up. Great block by Devin Witherspoon, who came flying in as we scored. And it was a very comfortable win. And it's crazy to say against the Falcons team who, they were 4-2, favoring this game in their place. We did our job, and looking forward against an even tougher opponent this week in the Bills. We're going against a much better quarterback, I think. One of the best quarterbacks in the league, of course, and Josh Allen, who just got Amari Cooper added as one of his weapons. Their defense has a lot of pieces as well. You're at home, though, but it'll be a tough one. I think the biggest thing is building defensively what you can do. I'm not saying I expect to win, but I just hope that we can show more confidence. Make me sweat a little bit. If you lose a close one against the Bills, of course I'll be disappointed. But I won't be too mad if they keep it close. But Rick Woolen, hopefully they get him back. He's been out the last 2 games. Trey Brown as well. The DK, now it's always like one person gets back and we lose two guys and stuff like that. So DK's week to week. They said he landed out of bounds on jumping up for one. He landed on his knee with a sprained MCL. It's grade 1. So we'll see how he is, but that just calls for more JSN in the game plan. He hasn't taken off in his almost year and a half starting his career. So we'll see, but a good win against the Falcons in their place.
Another winner, my Green Bay Packers.
Speaking of making you sweat.
Oh my gosh. This is how Jordan Love is. Which, for how he wins, it's okay. It's just, good Lord, I'm going to have a pacemaker by the time I'm 45 if I keep watching him play. Because, good God, some of his decision-making for sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years and then watching him go out and make some of the throws he does, even the throw to Tucker Kraft for that amazing touchdown, that should have been picked. All day that should have been picked.
Think so?
I think
at least knocked away.
At least knocked away.
I don't think it should have been caught. That's the thing. I think it was in a place where nobody could have got it basically except for Tucker Kraft. But the thing is, he's so aggressive, man. And he talked about it. I think after the game, he was like, "I'm aggressive. That's who I am as a player." And we talked about him and Favre and the similarities, but the thing with Rodgers is I think mechanically they're so similar.
Yeah,
that's what the thing is. But with Favre, being aggressive, taking those, it's do or die. They got away with it.
It's do or die. They got away with it because their defense. This is the signature performance that we've been waiting for from Jeff Hafley's defense, and they showed up. Rashawn Gary finally got a sack. He'd gone 11 games without a sack or something, which is extremely disappointing. I won't mince words. There's Packers Twitter. They're like, "Oh, but he's getting chipped on 30% of his rushes." It's a running back. It's a chip. If he's that good, he should be getting into the backfield still and making plays. You made one in this game. What can Xavier McKinney not do? Had an awesome. Now it was great scheming. He was untouched on that sack, but still, what can he not do? Eric Wilson has been such a revelation as a rookie, like coming in and doing what he's doing. He's been amazing. Jair continued his dominance against Stephon Diggs, which that was so funny. Comes over in pregame, is talking trash. No one comes to back him up. And then Stephon Diggs' final stat line in this game, with no Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, 5 catches for 23 yards. Like, he just cannot get it going against the Packers. I love that so much. Josh Jacobs got going, kind of. I mean, he had like 2 big runs that really helped his yardage total. Otherwise, same thing it's been all year. Still don't like him. Romeo Doubs is showing up, which thank goodness he is. Which I have to wonder, like, are they like making a conscious effort to get him the ball more?
It feels like that happens with the Packers. It's like each of the last few years, like especially with Christian Watson too. As soon as the whole fan base turns on a guy, that guy just goes nuts the next week.
Yeah, and I mean he's done it 2 weeks in a row. Like he caught 2 touchdowns the week before, and then he had 94 yards this week on 8 catches. So like he's done it multiple times this year. So Dobbs, I'm buying in on him. Jaden Reed had an awful game. Like he almost cost us on a punt return. So he runs back into the end zone, and then he gets up to like the 3-yard line. It was like, okay. There was a whole running lane way on the other side of the field. Why didn't you just like even try? You could have got out to like the 10. Thank goodness we didn't get a safety there. We were stupid close to that happening. But then our special teams. It was such a typical like Green Bay special teams game. So like that punt, and then there was another like kick return. With this new kickoff, this was probably one of the longest returns there's been all season. Besides the 100-yard one in the Bengals game, that was awesome. But it was like a 35-yard return. It's like, dude, what happened? Just untouched. Runs up the sideline. I'm still not sold on our special team. But Brandon McManus signed him off the street.
Yep.
For whatever flaws he has, should he be playing? Maybe, maybe not. Whatever the problem, he came in and he won the game.
What happened to Brandon McManus?
Brandon McManus he's still in trouble, I think, for a bunch of like sexual harassment.
Really?
He was sexually harassing like flight attendants or something like that. So it's kind of like, I don't like having you on my team, but you won the game, so
He's the Deshaun Watson of kickers.
let's not go that far now. And rest in peace to Deshaun Watson's career. He's done. Tearing an Achilles, it's over.
Yeah, we could probably not talk about Deshaun Watson the rest of the year, honestly. I think Twitter's had enough of a field day over the last couple of days.
I mean, you get booed at home. I mean, that's
great. Somehow we ended up on Deshaun Watson.
How do you
talking about Brandon McManus. Anyway,
that's how it goes.
Shout out to the Packers, I guess.
Your pass rush was really impressive. I think that was the biggest.
They were
like that's the thing. I think that's been the thing that's like holding you back from buying into the defense. Granted, the Texans O-line, they've struggled all year with penalties and discipline and all type of stuff. But if you build on that, you can definitely look at the Packers being representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. So
I think it's certainly possible. I do think another thing with the Texans too is it's very. We were wondering heading into the season, like, would there be a true alpha number 1? Well, I think we found out that is Nico Collins, and him not being there is hurting them immensely. And Stephon Diggs is a complete head case. Jair Alexander was getting his head all day long, even from the beginning of the game, like before the game even started. So yeah, I think that was a classy performance by the Packers this weekend, taking advantage of a team that was down, and they still almost didn't win it because of all those mistakes you just mentioned. But they got the win in that division. Man,
you have to win every game.
It sucks. It really freaking sucks being in that division.
You can not lose a game in the NFC North.
No, you cannot. You cannot. All right, what's next?
We got fantasy football. We're going to go super quick through this. I'll lead us off. As always, a disclaimer to the folks at home. Do not listen to my fantasy advice. I didn't check how they did last week. I even searched that on fantasy today, too, looking for Mike Evans. I got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans confused. He plays tonight.
Big Captain America fan.
Yeah, I guess. So Chris Godwin plays tonight. He was on my cell last week. Mike Evans is on my cell this week against the Ravens. They play on Sunday, so Mike Evans will play tonight. But then he'll play Sunday, too. I'm not high on him against the Ravens. Their secondary has looked a lot better as the weeks have gone on. And Baker, I think, is looking more at Chris Godwin now.
Very much so.
He's kind of looking away from Mike Evans, which is a little bit of a head scratcher there. Like, I wonder, is it more play calling or is it just he's making reads? But he's not looking at Mike Evans as much. This doesn't mean sit him because Mike Evans will still have that game as soon as you bench him, like a 27-point, 2-touchdown game. I'm just not really high on him against the Ravens. I have 2 running backs on my bye list this week, both in the AFC West. Javonte Williams finally had the breakout, looking like second-year Javonte Williams. That was refreshing to see. He's playing the Panthers. We know how bad they are. Not much more to say about that one. Then Kareem Hunt. Talk about turning back the clock. He's looked good for the Chiefs. Like, not amazing, but he's looked how he needs to. And with how banged up they are, they lost another receiver yesterday. Juju was out of the game. I don't know if he'll miss time. But another receiver down. They're just going to lean on the run even more. They trust Kareem Hunt. They're playing the Raiders. Again, not a very strong defense. So I would take Kareem Hunt for at least 13 points. Running back to flex territory.
Okay, so I was going to bring up Deshaun again. Did Deshaun ever play with Kareem Hunt on the Browns?
I don't think so.
I think they were on the team at the same time. Like Deshaun's first year. But he was hurt. Well, he was suspended, and then Kareem Hunt was hurt.
When did that trade happen? 2022?
Talk about a crazy backfield. Jesus.
Yeah, him and Nick Chubb.
Was that
Well, I
2022?
meant from like a criminal.
Oh, well, that too, yeah.
Well, Anyway, Kareem Hunt. Yeah, no, he actually has looked all right with the Chiefs. And, the Chiefs' offense has actually been freaking terrible recently, but they're still finding ways to win games. And a big reason to that is because they do have a solid run game. So
I think I'm with Ryan and don't listen to my fantasy advice, especially with who I buy. I bought Tank Dell last week. He talked about Stephon Diggs.
oh my gosh, he didn't have a
Zero
single catch,
catch,
did he?
Single catch.
Nothing.
Yeah, I also bought Jawan Johnson and Boston Rowe in terms of the Saints tight ends. They had 13 points combined. But I did sell Brandon Ayuk.
There you go.
I didn't factor in the fact that he got hurt. He only had 4 points in the first half anyway, so I think I was going to eat regardless. But this week I'm buying Tyreek Hill. Now this is a little contingent.
Yeah, for real. What's going on?
Because Tua is expected to get back. If Tua's back, I'm buying Tyreek.
It's a big deal.
Like Tyreek Hill has not done anything since he's gone out. Like it's been a struggle. We're trying to get him involved with those quarterbacks. Turned to Snoop Huntley and Tim Boyle came back in yesterday. But if Tua is back, him, Jalen Waddle, even Devon Achane, I don't know. For some reason it just opens. Tua's in there. It just opens everything up for those skill position guys. I'm also buying Ricky Pearsall. The 49ers receivers are kind of they're going through it right now. I mean, I talked about Ayuk. Debo did he play? Did he
He was
on the side? Yeah, and then they brought him right back out.
He was sick. He was
Like,
on oxygen.
they showed it. Yeah, he was sick. And Jawan Jennings didn't play either, so his status is up in the air. So Ricky Pearsall came back. He didn't have a crazy game yesterday. After getting shot, he was out the first, I guess, what would that be, 5 games? But against the Cowboys defense, and we'll talk about that game later, that can definitely be had. They're susceptible to just about everything. So I'm expecting him to have his first big game in the NFL. I'm also selling the Jags skill position players. Coming back from London, I'm expecting the regression. They had a big day against the Patriots defense, who they look like a shell of themselves right now. But I just don't believe in the Jags. They're playing the Packers this week, right?
Yeah.
Packers defense, they looked really good yesterday, and I think they'll get after it. Once again, a bad O-line in Jacksonville. Make it hard on Trevor. Don't expect the receivers to get ball. They all had big days. Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr. So regression to the mean for those guys for sure.
Yeah, I had Evan Ingram on my board last week, and I don't think he scored a touchdown, which I was pretty disappointed in, but he wasn't terrible or anything. I also saw Garrett Wilson as well last week. Which is funny because I picked the Jets, and we'll get to that. We switched. Howard and I switched our picks, and we'll talk about that at length. Garrett Wilson actually, he was 5 for 61, which is not terrible, but I don't think those are 2 terrible picks.
Should have had more.
Should have definitely had more. This week, I have a long buy list. We're going to go with the Bears wide receivers. I think they're going to cook against the Washington defense. I think it's still terrible. I'm also buying Travis Kelce this week. For the Chiefs going against the Raiders, and this is a good spot for him to bounce back and have a big game. I also think that for whatever reason, again, just to visualize it, he just crushes the Raiders and Chargers. I feel like every time he plays those 2 teams, he goes off. So I'm going to Travis Kelce, and then I'm going to buy Jaden Reed because We were talking about earlier how when the Packers fan base turns on a player, Ryan turned on Jaden Reed when he was doing his state of the team. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, he's going to bounce back and have a big game this week. So lock it in for Jaden Reed to have a big game of fantasy. And I'm selling the entire Browns franchise. You should not start any Browns player under any circumstance. And that includes Nick Chubb, which sucks to say. He got a touchdown yesterday, which was fun and cool to see, but it did absolutely nothing for the team. Obviously, there's a lot going on there that we could do a whole podcast talking about that whole debacle. But yeah, so those are my 3 buys, and then sell the entire Browns franchise for a friggin' bag of chips. All right, time for the picks. And Ryan, I want you to take it away, but I do just want to briefly mention something I want to get your guys' take on. So I'm 0-5 switching NFL picks, and I am banning myself from picking the Jets. I actually picked against them once this year, and that was the Patriots game where they won like by 20.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys something. I looked ahead at the schedule. They're scheduled to be on primetime 2 more times this year, which is just an abomination in and of itself. Okay. But I would like permission from you guys to exclude myself from even participating in the picking of those games and just take those. Either you can just give me can those count as ties, like a push?
I don't know if that counts as a tie.
Or would you automatically give me a loss? Like, or just not even have it on my record at all?
My question is,
I just hate this team. I hate the New York Jets so freaking much. And of course, Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. Of course, Aaron Rodgers. Listen, I thought I was going to like him on the Jets. No, I hate him on the Jets. This team is just unbelievably. They should have won that Bills game on last Monday night. Mm-hmm. That started off this terrible week, and then they were winning the entire first half against the Steelers, and then didn't score a single point in the freaking second half. So somebody, okay, you guys. Let me know what I should do. Is that fair or is it not fair? You think I should still pick the games? I'm open to anything, but I figured I would at least ask because this team has ruined my record. I mean, you think about this. If I just didn't pick the Jets this year, I'd be 22-16 picking games. Or not 22-16. I'd be
22
13.
22 and
11 or something like that.
22 and 4.
Because 4
22.
22 and 11.
I'd be 4. You have to switch from 1-4 to 4-1. I think it would be 22. I can't math. 22 and 11? Yeah. 22 and 11.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
you can't not pick the game.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Just know that I'm picking against the Jets from now on.
You're picking against them.
So
that's honestly
so they're playing the Texans on Thursday Night Football next week, I believe.
I wouldn't pick them anyway.
And then they play the Colts, I think, 2 weeks after that on Sunday Night Football, which that's going to be a terrible game.
Yeah. I think with the Jets is like, it's something every week at this point in terms of grasping at straws or whatever. In terms of first you fired Robert Saleh, then you traded for Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Yesterday before the game started, news of Hassan Reddick was going to sign an adjusted contract and he'll be back soon. So it's like they're doing everything they can to try to salvage the season, but like
it's a freaking clown card. It is a clown.
It is ridiculous. Like I switched on him too. I was like, Devontae's back. I wasn't expecting, like, I thought Russ was going to be bad. Like, the way he played in the first quarter, I thought it was going to be that.
Oh, it was terrible.
Game. And even still, I don't think he played some phenomenal game.
They're showing that one throw to George Pickens where the ball, like, bobbled. It's like, whoa, Justin Fields couldn't do that. Like, that should have gotten picked.
That's the biggest difference between Russ and Fields is that Russ has a propensity to throw the deep ball, but, like, he did not throw over the middle of the field one time. It was rollouts and stuff to his flats the whole time. The Jets defense just... You fire Saleh, and the defense was the only reason that you were in games in the first place. So, of course, it's going to regress when he's out of the building. And the offense was your problem. They did take Nathaniel Hackett's play calling away. But
thank goodness.
But still, like, they're not, firing on all cylinders offensively. So, they're just a terribly ran organization. Jets fans, we're praying for you over there. They are going through it.
Yeah, it's terrible. Okay, Ryan, quick recap.
So here we go, through the picks. Both of you guys picked the Saints last week, and that aged horribly.
What an awful
pick. Broncos came in and just absolutely rolled them on Drew Brees' Hall of Fame induction. And then after the game, like, people were all upset. And then Alvin Kamara just had a terrible out-of-context quote about, like, fans leaving the dome early. He was like, they shouldn't be leaving the dome early. It's like, why not? You guys are getting cooked. Why wouldn't they leave? And so, Broncos rolled the Saints. Chiefs, they just continue to win. They find a way. Mahomes did not look good. This was probably one of his worst games as a starter.
He hasn't looked great all year,
No, he hasn't.
but like he's turning the ball over. They don't have that big play. Seeking, like you could see them seeking for it. He can't connect with Worthy over the deep down the field. It's like he has to take these like intermediate shots, and they're running the ball decently. I think they'll be fine going forward. But like similar to last year, where defense is carrying them, they destroyed Purdy and their offense. I mean,
Purdy will look terrible.
The Chiefs own them basically. This I think that's 5 in a row in the Shanahan era against Andy Reid. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah. And then the Jets, we talked about them. They lost twice. The holdover on Monday night. And they lost last night to the Steelers. And then London. Poor people in London. Like, they have to watch the Jags and the Patriots play.
Jags like their team over there.
Yeah, to be fair, and it was a little bit more entertaining at least. I mean, the Jags, like, they dominated them.
Yeah, there was that. At least they dominated. But good Lord. Like, can we send some better games over? If we're trying to get NFL fans in London, this is not the way to do it.
What's funny, at this time last year, we were like, wow, London fans have it great. They get to watch this great Jags team. I don't remember how good they were a year ago.
Yeah,
it's crazy how far they've fallen.
Here we are. So Doug Peterson didn't get fired this week, but
Who do they have next week?
Packers.
Oh yeah. Well,
I don't think he'll get fired.
I don't think he'll get fired for that one.
But he gonna be
Maybe
on the
they'll
hot
lose.
seat.
Maybe they'll lose terribly. If they lose terribly enough, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So now going into the picks this week, we got Vikings at Rams on Thursday on Prime. Unfortunately, their broadcasts are still just terrible. Jordan, you had a note on here. I think it was who's return?
Cooper Kupp is coming back this week for the Rams. So, the spread's at -3, which I think is pretty interesting. I think Cooper Kupp coming back does provide a little bit of a spark for the LA Rams. That being said, I'm reluctantly, because I would love to see them lose this game, but reluctantly I will pick the Minnesota Vikings because I do think their performance against the Lions yesterday was pretty commendable. I think the Lions are just that good. So yeah, give me the Vikings.
Lions really impressed me yesterday. Without Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, if that game was on our sheet, I would have picked the Vikings with his injury. But like, they're built for it. I mean, they can definitely be up there again, back in the NFC Championship. But the Vikings, I'm expecting them to bounce back. The Rams, even though they're getting Cooper Kupp back, I don't think that will be too much of a difference. He can't help their defense, which I think will be had in this one. Maybe Stafford will go off. Maybe we'll have another outstanding game, but I'm taking Minnesota.
It's going to take a really outstanding game for the Rams to stay in it. I'm taking the Vikings without too much of a thought on this one. With how they played against the Lions. With how they played against the Lions, that was kind of my eye-opening time. Like, yeah, they beat the Packers. Okay, fine. But them playing the Lions that well really showed, okay, this Vikings team is legit. So then we got our next game, Sunday, 3:25 p.m. on CBS. We have the Bears in Washington playing the Commanders. We're going to cross the board on this one, too.
Oh, we are. So you're not going to do a contingency pick anymore. So
I'm not.
You discussed doing a contingency pick.
I had discussed doing a contingency pick. If Jaden Daniels played, I would have taken the Commanders. But
he can still play. They don't know that.
The spread is all. So this actually started with the Commanders being favored, but now since Jaden Daniels' injury, it's flipped all the way to now Bears are 2.5-point favorites. Which, like before we started this pod, it was 1, and now it's 2.5. So it may not be likely that Jaden Daniels plays.
Yeah,
Mariota looked good though. Sort of.
He did
against the
Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, which you better look good against the Panthers if you're an NFL quarterback. No, the Bears in this one, I think they realize they've got to keep pace with the rest of the NFC North. This is also kind of a time their defense can come out and really show what they're made of. If Jaden Daniels plays against let's just be frank, a good Washington offense. So I'm rolling with the Bears. I think everybody did. Howard, you got any special reasons?
Not too different. The worst unit in this game by far is the Commanders' defense, which J. Crew was talking about in his fantasy section. So I'm expecting the Bears to look great as the season has gone on, look better. So while coming off a bye, I expect them to have their way against that Commanders' defense. And even if Jaden Daniels plays, this is by definitely the toughest defense he'll play as well.
And look, I almost want him to play because now if we win, people are going to be like, oh, there's another win that doesn't count because you didn't have to start a quarterback. I think either way, I think it's going to be imperative that we go off against this defense, regardless if Jane Daniels plays. So that's the angle I'm looking at this with. We're probably going to be as healthy as we've been all season, which is great. Obviously, coming off the bye last week. For a lot of people don't know this, but Caleb was actually from the DC area, so this is a homecoming game for him. I think a lot of people, when they didn't know if we were going to trade the pick or keep Justin Fields or not, a lot of people were saying the Commanders would be a team that would trade up for Caleb, and so I think they're happy with their situation, obviously. But I'm going to go with the Bears. Another quick note I saw about Jane Daniels, it's funny. You'll watch him play at LSU. He doesn't really know how to protect himself. And he's also not a big guy either. So him getting hurt by just like sliding down yesterday and kind of getting tackled weirdly from behind, I think that was weird. And that's one thing that if I were a Commanders fan would concern me a little bit, just because of how physically fragile he is and how he doesn't really seem like he knows how to protect himself. I mean, look at a guy like Lamar, for example. He's not a big guy either. Now, he's got bigger, but like he knows how to protect himself and he understands the value of his arm and obviously his legs as well. So I'm glad that this game got moved to prime time because I definitely think it's, given the way that both of these teams have played so far this season, it's definitely going to be one to watch. So yeah, I'm going to take Chicago.
Yeah, one that's probably not going to be very fun to watch is Cowboys at 49ers on Sunday Night Football. I mean, they are two like historic brands, historic rivals, so like you have that going for you. But the Cowboys are coming off a bye, but even before that bye, they were terrible. The Niners are coming off a really ugly loss to the Chiefs. We're all riding together on this one, which for good reason, because Dallas has looked just atrocious this year. Can't hardly beat a wet paper bag. But 49ers, I mean, they're what, 3-4 now?
3-4.
3-4. This is like the first time they've been under 500 by week 7 in probably 4 years?
I saw a screenshot of it. I don't know what year, maybe 2021. They started 3-4 and then they won out the rest of their games. So I hope they lose this game.
Yeah,
but I do not see them losing this game whatsoever. The Cowboys are so dysfunctional. I don't think they necessarily wanted to win this year, and Jerry Jones just didn't want to admit it. They're probably looking at Ashton Jeanty right now in terms of their draft stock. So I'm rolling with the 49ers, and I don't think it'll be necessarily close.
Would getting Ashton Jeanty make this team that much better, though?
No, but it'd help.
It would help, especially offensively, a lot because they've gotten to the point where CD is their only weapon, and they only throw to CD basically.
Yeah.
If you don't have a running game, not another receiver, like you said, it would just alleviate Dak so much more. It would alleviate CD so much more. They still need a lot of help defensively as well, but Jeanty would definitely help them a good amount.
Yeah, I'm going to go Niners too. This is a principal game. Niners play the Cowboys at home. They're going to win. Same thing when the Niners play the Packers. You know they're going to beat them. It's just written in the stars.
Pretty much.
So give me the Niners on a bounce back. CMC's not close to coming back, is he?
I don't think so.
So
there was talk about it. Like I saw him practice. He wasn't practicing, but I saw him doing
walking
something on the field last week. Yeah, I don't know. But
I think Debo's going to take some antibiotics this week. He'll be better. Brandon Ayuk, I think, was going to have a big game. It's just going to be an all Niners week.
Out.
Brandon Ayuk's out. So for sure.
He tore his ACL.
Yeah. I missed that. Jeez, the week. Okay, never mind. Either way, Niners.
Yeah.
Niners all the way. Niners all the way.
And then we have another one that was kind of a gimme. Giants at Steelers. We're all together on every game this week, so we ride or die together.
Scary.
The Giants have just looked bad. Daniel Jones actually got benched for Drew Lock.
Seahawks legend Drew Lock.
Yeah, Seahawks legend Drew Lock. That really just tells you how far gone this Giants season already is. 7 games in. Like, your $160 million man getting benched, and then Saquon, who you should have and could have paid him, wanted to be a Giant. He didn't want to leave. But then you go and you pay Daniel Jones, and you're just like, oh, sorry, Saquon, we'll offer you like $4 million a year. You dumb? Like, Joe Schoen is just dumb at this point. He needs to be fired after this year. Brian Dable will probably be fired after this year too. The clean house in New York again for like the 5th time in the last 10 years. But yeah, Giants nowhere fast. Steelers, Russell Wilson, let Russ cook. Let Russ cook.
I don't think it'll be too difficult to do that. More so the Giants. I feel like the Giants have the pieces in place. If they just had a quarterback Like, you got Malik Neighbors. Their O-line played well when Andrew Thomas was in there. They have pieces on their defense, especially the defensive line.
Oh yeah, I think they lead the league in sacks.
Dexter Lawrence is going crazy, man.
Yeah.
And it's like Daniel Jones just destroys all of that. It just makes it look so much worse how he destroyed our defense. But I'm still picking the Steelers. I mean, their defense is talk about their defense. Their defensive line is crazy. They have the corners. They have the safeties. I mean, they are the real deal, and I think they'll just keep on rolling.
The Steelers being 6-2 just doesn't feel right. Like they obviously have great defense, but they don't feel like a 6-2 team.
It's coming. I'm telling you, if you look at their schedule, it is coming. Where they have a gauntlet.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to pick against them every single week when that happens. But we will go with them on this Monday night. I don't like it, but it seems like this would be a game that they would win and probably win big, honestly.
Yeah, it does. So we're just going to recap for this week on Monday night on ESPN. It is Chargers-Cardinals. Howard and I took the Chargers. Jordan took the Cardinals. And then the better game that I think everybody's going to be watching is Ravens at Buccaneers. This one's on ABC. Howard and Jordan both took the Ravens. I took the Bucs. We will see how this happens. Because also we'll see how the World Series unfolds. Howard,
That's right.
take us into it.
The World Series is set, and it's a matchup that I think it's underrated in baseball. How like something like this rarely happens, where you have two prestigious historic franchises in terms of the Yankees and the Dodgers actually matching up. The Yankees haven't been in the World Classic since 2009. The Dodgers' last World Series appearance in the last 40 years was during 2020, the COVID season. So for them to not only get back to the World Series and match up against each other, I think I'm not going to say it's refreshing, but it's like, man, this is so different from every other league, basically, where you have the teams who are, you would say, the best, they actually make it to the end. Yankees, they overpowered the Guardians a little bit. The Guardians, they put up a fight, especially when it went back to Cleveland. Kinsey Noel with a huge homer.
Big Christmas, which I did not know that was his nickname.
You didn't?
Christmas?
Big
No,
Christmas.
for some reason I had no idea.
Because Noel?
Oh.
Which I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
But it's one of the tertiary Christmas words.
He destroyed that pitch from Luke Weaver. And the day before I walked it off in the next inning with a 2-run homer as well. But the Yankees, their big three clutch homers. Aaron Judge hit a game-tying 2-run homer. And Stan hit a go-ahead homer. Juan Soto in the clinching game hit a 3-run homer at the top of the 10th. I mean, they're getting contributions from Anthony Volpe, from Gleyber Torres, from Anthony Rizzo. I mean, they are really kind of firing on all cylinders offensively, especially. And I think they're going to actually have Stroman pitch in the World Series. Luis Hill, Nestor Cortez, I think is actually going to pitch in the World Series, of course, with Garrett Cole and Clark Schmidt as well. This is their best chance, and I don't think it's like. I was trying to decipher who I think is most must win in terms of this World Series, because obviously these teams are expected to be in this
I
position.
feel like it's a pretty easy answer.
Yeah.
Is it the Yankees?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I was leaning, because the Dodgers have a window. They have a pretty big window with
Huge
the core that they have.
10-year window.
The Yankees, I think they're obviously favored to re-sign Juan Soto, but there's a possibility he goes, stays in New York, not to the Dodgers, but stays in New York and goes to the Mets. We'll talk about them later, but
I would hate that.
that would be insane. But the Guardians, I think the biggest thing in this series was Clase got hit, and got a stat for you. The Yankees, this is getting back past a couple of years. Last 6 out of 10 outings they've gotten to them, so they've taken the lead or tied the game in that closing position. When you give major league hitters an opportunity to see those bullpen guys over and over again, that just only gives the advantage to those hitters. And it's like, man, even their guy Cade Smith, the rookie, who has been so good, he's just got used so much. They said his velo was down, and then Stan hits the home run for him. So the Guardians, it's tough when kind of like when Skubal got beat this series before. If your guy gets beat like that, that's how you know the series is lost. They couldn't shut it down with Clase. It would have been interesting if he could actually finish that job. Funny, after the first game he blew, he posted on IG. He posted all this stuff.
Yeah.
All his accomplishments. That was funny. But biggest thing for me for the Guardians going forward is, are they going to actually spend money? Are they going to actually build off of what they had? There's some going around on Twitter of them having the 5th richest owner, and for them to never spend is a pretty big indictment on them. And now you get to the ALCS, and are you going to actually build on it? argument. So,
Yeah.
Jay Cruz, you had a most baffling broadcaster call that you've ever heard.
Mhm.
You say, what exactly was it? And also, you have a massive problem with
Yeah,
managing.
so I'll tie the two together. The thing with the managing is, and it's been a thing forever, and it's not going to change. The idea that you use, let's use Class A as an example. The idea that for an entire 162 game season, and your best closer is going to come in anywhere between 50 to 70 times, depending on how many close games you're in.
Something
right?
like that, yeah.
Because like Helsley, he led the league in saves this year. He had 49, right? And they were in a crap ton of close games. So he comes in anywhere between 50 to 70 times, depending on how close your games are. And he pitches 1 inning, pretty much every single time. Then when you get to the postseason, you're throwing guys sometimes even more than 2 innings.
Yeah.
As a closer, they're not used to that kind of pitch count. And you saw so many games in this postseason, particularly with Class A, but with a bunch of other closers too. Edwin Diaz blowing games late, and it's like, wow, I can't believe that he just hit the 3-run bomb off of Edwin Diaz. Well, that was his 40th pitch with Class A, the one with that Kerry Carpenter hit off of him in Game 1 of that Tigers series. That was like 25th pitch. Those guys aren't used to throwing that. Yeah. I don't understand how you go through a whole season winning games with the kind of bullpen where you're just like, okay, like this guy's rested. Okay, we're going to put him in there. It's just managers, and every single one of them does it. So it's not like it's one team or another. It's just, I don't understand why your trust tree shrinks down to 2 or 3 guys. And then by the time you get late into the postseason, those dudes are exhausted. They have to be at least.
Cleveland especially, because their bullpen is so deep. That's like the story. They had their best bullpen all year.
And that's pretty much why they ended up getting as far as they did, but they still kept using Class A, I think, a little too much. But it is what it is. And the most baffling broadcasting call, it's more baffling the reaction to it. So when Juan Soto hit that 3-run homer in Game 5, after the game, I saw a bunch of people commenting about how the Guardians radio broadcaster, Tom Hamilton, they were playing his call. And I'm just going to play it for you guys. Okay. People were calling this the greatest call they've ever heard on a home run. And mind you, he's the Guardians' great.
Swung on to hit a high in the air, deep center. Thomas is back, track, wall, gone!
What did you make that face for, Greaser?
He's the Guardians broadcaster.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why are you going that crazy for the Guardians? That's not your team.
He wants
And
one
people
Soto on his
in
team.
every single comment, I have not seen one negative comment about that. Everyone's been like, "This is amazing. It's so unbiased." I'm like, if the Cubs radio broadcaster did that for like the Cardinals in the postseason, I would never listen to him again.
No.
I used to quick short story. The Bears radio announcer does this too. That's why I don't listen to him all that much. Remember when Cordero Patterson was on the Vikings and he was just going off like early in his career? I remember one game he returned a kick for a touchdown, and the Bears radio announcer was going nuts about it. I'm like, I was like 12. I'm like, what are we doing? Seriously, this is ridiculous. I don't understand why that's like a good thing. I don't know. When you're of it, I understand it's about the moment. It's bigger than no. You work for the Guardians. You don't work for the Yankees. You want to make fun calls for Juan Soto. Either go national or work for the Yankees. Am I missing something here? Am I missing something?
I really, the thing is, I kind of understand both sides. Like I wouldn't do that. Obviously,
No.
Like he was pretty ecstatic about it. But like, I don't want my announcer to also just like feed me, like the opposite spectrum. I don't want them to feed me like I'm a baby and I can't handle the realness of what. Like if my team sucks, I don't want them to give me a bunch of excuses, necessarily. Yeah. So like that was obviously like there's two extremes in that position. Like obviously you wouldn't want him to do that, but call him the greatest call they've ever heard. I mean, it wasn't even.
I may have embellished a little bit by saying that, but like everyone was saying that it was just awesome. He's so unbiased. He's not supposed to be unbiased.
I hear that more with like TV guys than I do radio guys. Because
Yes.
like we talked about, radio is supposed to paint a picture, right? But I don't know.
Yeah, that wasn't even like a particularly artful call. Just he's back to the track, gone. Like that wasn't anything special. Like he didn't add anything like that ball had the juice of a chili dog or blah, 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 whatever. Just like something stupid that you're gonna remember. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
No, not the best call ever.
The Yankees will be facing off against these Los Angeles Dodgers, it is East Coast versus West Coast, and the Dodgers just outslugged the Mets. We last taped after Game 2 or during Game 2. The Dodgers just completely destroyed the Mets starters, and I think that was the biggest difference because the Mets starters have been such a revelation for them, especially in the second half of the year and into the playoffs. I mean, they got to everybody at least once. Manaea did the best job against them in Game 2, but in Game 6, they got right back at Manaea. I mean, Severino, Quintana, who am I forgetting about? They also got
What's his name?
I
Keep
don't
talking,
know.
let me think about
Let me think.
Not Trevor Megill.
Tyler Megill. Did he start though?
No, I don't think so.
I
That's
don't
what I'm
know.
thinking. Like, I can't remember his name.
I can't think of the other starter.
Quintana, Severino, Manaea.
Quintana, Severino, Manaea.
Was that it?
No, there's 4. Anyway,
Keep
the
talking.
Dodgers lineup is insane.
Yeah.
And this was without, like, Freddie Freeman is dealing with a serious ankle injury. He missed 2 games. He didn't start the game, 2 of those games. But Teoscar Hernandez also didn't have a hit in the series until Game 6. The Mets, they couldn't keep that magic going. They couldn't get clutch hits for a lot of this series. But the Dodgers are continuing to survive. They're continuing to actually shut offenses down, even without their guys. I mean, it's like Yamamoto, Flaherty, and Buehler. And Flaherty got lit up in Game 5. Buehler, is he back? You want to say, can you trust him to be that good in the playoffs? He does have the pedigree of being a playoff pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, I'm taking the Dodgers, like, in this series. I think their offense has really shown me something. Their bullpen also has been great, and they're surviving off bullpen games. So they'll probably have 2 of those in the World Series, depending on how long the series goes. Shout out to the Mets, though. Nobody expected them to be in this position. They were really bad to start off the year. Started off like 0-5. They almost had like a Nationals, 2019 Nationals type run. And I think they're in great position going forward because they weren't expected to be good. It was supposed to be a transition year in terms of trading away those guys who were making the most money on the roster. And now you're in a position where you can definitely add to this team, and they have a core that you can build around Mark Mendoza to himself.
Yeah.
Those starters, basically all of them are free agents, like Severino, Manaea, and Quintana, but you can bring some guys back. The other guys you can add, and we'll get to free agency down the line. But in terms of predictions for this World Series, taking the Dodgers in 6.
Ooh. I agree with that.
The Dodgers, they'll have home field. Their offense is just unreal. I mean, they got Andy Paez, right-handed Tommy Edman. I could have told you this before the playoffs. Right-handed Tommy Edman is a different animal. He is unreal.
Did he win the NLCS?
He won the NLCS MVP.
Crazy how that was.
Shout out Randy Rosarena as well. Even Lane Thomas had a good playoffs.
4 Cardinals series.
Who else? Will Smith had bounced back. Max Muncy had 13 straight. He reached base with 13 straight plate appearances. They are just. Didn't even mention Shohei and Mookie. I mean, they are unreal. I mean, who do you guys got?
Dodgers in 6. I will be rooting for them too. I do not want to see the Yankees.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's funny how the Red Sox have won so much. I think it would just be cool to keep seeing the Yankees go over. Because really, Yankees fans, this is all they care about. Like a loss in the World Series to a Yankees fan is equivalent to a loss earlier than that, in like the wild card or whatever. Like this is all they talk about. They haven't been here in 15 years though, despite how much talking they do. So
Right. Give me the Dodgers in 7. Because I think that Aaron Judge is going to have 2 signature games in the World Series. Even though he hasn't been that good in the postseason still, I think he's going to realize this is my chance. 2 signature games. Ends up with like 5 home runs in the series. But
that would be the most anticipated Game 7 probably since Cubs Indians, honestly.
That would
Probably.
be crazy.
probably.
Yeah, like thinking of all the other matchups that have happened since then, like a couple of them did go to 7, but they wouldn't be as crazy as that would be.
When was Warriors Cavs? Was that 2016 too?
Well, I meant MLB, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
It depends on which Warriors.
But you zoom in all game 7s. Like,
No. Just Major League Baseball.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean that would be.
How many game 7s we had recently?
Baseball. Dodgers Astros went 7. Astros Nats went 7. I think that's it though. I think the Braves beat the Stros in 6.
6, yeah.
Strosby, the Phillies only 5. Yeah. And then last year the Rangers won at 5. So yeah, we've only had a couple since.
Recently, yeah.
So not in the 2020s.
It'll be Yamamoto versus Cole on Friday. Pretty long gap in between.
Yeah,
the
very.
series.
That's the only thing that sucks about this. Well, because I think they were planning just in case both series won 7 games.
Yeah,
But
I guess. Anyway, it's another sport that's entering the frame.
mm-hmm.
National Basketball Association will kick off tomorrow. As we record this on Monday, it'll kick off on Tuesday. I think it's Lakers,
T-Wolves?
Lakers,
Yeah.
Wolves, and then Celtics. Not Celtics.
Celtics,
No,
Knicks.
Celtics, Knicks, yeah. So, got 3 teams here in terms of buy, selling, and holding. The first team that I'm buying, and I'm kind of stuck between two Western Conference teams: Memphis Grizzlies and also the Houston
Easily.
Rockets. The Grizzlies went through a lot last year, mainly with John not being able to play the first 25 games and then getting hurt right after his return. I just think they have the pieces around them to really go on a run. They showed us that 2 years ago, but now you have Marcus Smart added to the frame. You have guys who developed in Desmond Bain and Jaren Jackson Jr. You added Zach Edey to this as well, and he looks solid in preseason. I think he'll like Ryan. I know you have a disdain towards Zach Edey, so I want to get your perspective on it. But like, the thing is, like, I just see like him having success if he's put in the right situation.
Yeah, and he has. He showed it in the preseason so far, and I hate it. Like, this might be my most hated athlete in all of sports.
Oh wow.
Is Zach Edey, for the number of years that he just got away with mugging Illinois basketball. The whole Big Ten. He would just mug everybody, every game, but as soon as you tap him, foul. Zach Edey is the softest player in the NBA. I'm calling it right now. Maybe not the softest, but like top 5 softest players in the NBA.
Yeah.
I hate Zach Edey
Yeah.
so much. But no, he's looked great. It's so frustrating because he's looked phenomenal.
Did you see some of his combine footage? He's kind of got a shot on him too now. Like he's always had like a pretty good
I
form
know.
for a 7'4" guy.
I know.
Or 7'3",
Don't remind me.
I mean, hey, I went up against him too.
I know you did, and so you know the horrors of Zach Edey.
Well, not me personally.
Honestly, I was like, you were on the post.
I was. Yeah. You saw me, I was playing for Fairleigh Dickinson. Yeah. I was their left bench guy.
The Grizzlies are a really fun watch, though, aside from all of that. And also with the Rockets, they actually just extended Jalen Green and Albert Shagun. They just have a lot of young core pieces, and they just added Reed Shepard to that. Yeah. They hung their hat on defense last year. I think if they continue to develop defensively, Jabari Smith Jr. I mean, they just have a lot that they can really add to it. And I think they can take a leap in a very tough Western Conference. Speaking of a tough Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets, I'm selling.
Now,
And-
by sell, do you mean like not make the playoffs sell, or sell? Do you mean
No,
not as good as they are?
sell in like just regression, like continuing to regress. In fact, we saw them get beat by the Timberwolves last year in the playoffs, and I think with the introduction of the second apron and making it so difficult for teams to have a wider championship window. We saw them lose KCP, who's one of the best 3-and-D players. He went to the next team I'll talk about, but I think they'll just continue to struggle. They haven't had guys actually step up as well in the draft in terms of guys like Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson, Christian Braun. They haven't had those guys step up, and now you're relying on like a Nikola Jokic show every night, lobbing up to Aaron Gordon, who's talking about getting an extension. You're gonna have to sign MPJ. Jamal Murray, is he going to be – he wasn't great in the playoffs last year in terms of consistent basis every night. So I'm selling Nuggets a little bit. The thing is they are well coached. I really like Mike Malone. So I could definitely see this being in the wrong, but I feel like that window is closing. They really need guys to develop for this, I think, to be wrong. You know? And the team that I'm holding on is the Orlando Magic. They say play the song every day, every time they win. They have a really, really nice young core. I think they can be in the mold of like the Oklahoma City Thunder a little bit in terms of guys who develop together, and eventually you're in a position where the Thunder are favored to win the West right now. The Magic, they're another team that hung their hat on defense, but they are really, really bad offensively last year. They need to shoot better for sure. But Jalen Suggs, who they just extended earlier, Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, Jonathan Isaac was huge defensively for them last year. I mean, they have a really, really good team, especially defensively, like I said, and also you have guys on the bench who you can fill it out. Anthony Black, who they drafted last year. I'm buying stock. I'm holding stock on the Magic. If they can just put it together offensively, I think they'll have a nice season in terms of they took the Cavs to 7 games first round last year. I mean, they can if they can just shoot better. If they can just shoot better, they'll be in a perfect spot. And that's what I got. I'm super excited for the NBA. I got more excited as the seasons got closer, and we got NBA is probably one of the most leagues with the most parity. I mean, we've been talking about league and parity in all of these sports, really. And that's really good spots for U.S. sports right now. So excited for the NBA.
What's weird for the NBA is that I don't think it shouldn't have as much parity as it does. But the reason it does is because guys choose not to play games anymore. Like we saw Joel Embiid. Didn't he say he's like not going to play back-to-backs this year?
That's because guys keep getting injured.
The rest of his career, not just this year.
The rest of his career. And then like Kawhi being out for like guys just don't play as much anymore.
Kawhi done. Kawhi won't be done.
Is he kind of equivalent to Tua?
I don't think Kawhi's
accomplished.
Because obviously he's accomplished a lot. Well, I think at this, like right now, I think they're on a similar career path where it seems like neither guy
No, that's
stay healthy.
I don't like that comp at all.
Okay.
Like just because they can't stay healthy, that is the only, and I say the only thing they have.
Yeah. Obviously, Kawhi has accomplished way more than Tua has. I'm just saying, right now in this current moment, it seems like they're kind of the same player in that. But even when Kawhi does come back, it's not like the Clippers play all that well.
Yeah.
At least that much better than they were.
They lost Paul George.
And they lost PG, who
Lost
has
Paul
one of the
George.
craziest injuries already with the
And
Sixers.
they have old James Harden, so like
Yeah.
the
It's gonna be
Clippers are going to miss the play.
I was so excited about the Clippers when they got
Oh my gosh, dude.
Kawhi. Back I
I
think it was what, 2019?
I was a bandwagon. Like I'll fully admit, I was a bandwagon Clippers fan. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm on it. Here we go. And then they just never did anything.
Yeah.
Kawhi just always was hurt.
Did they make the
They made the
bubble?
Western Conference Finals in the bubble.
In the bubble
And
and
they
lost to
blew
the
a-
Lakers. Or no.
3-1 lead to the Nuggets.
That would have been the semifinals then.
Yeah,
I don't
in the
remember
semis.
Lakers.
No. It was against.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
No,
Either way.
they made it. No, they never made it conference finals.
Yeah,
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Who did they play though? Was that did they play the Suns? The year that the Suns went to the finals?
That might be right. And
No,
Kawhi was like
the Suns
hurt
played
in
some
that
half.
series. No, that
They
wasn't- that
went
wasn't
in
the-
2020,
that was the
21. So they would have.
It was the Suns, right? The Suns
They
played
had
the Bucks
been.
in 20, or was it 22?
Yeah.
I don't know, but the Clippers, they just
Can't get away.
got a new stadium to play in, arena to play
Is that
in.
built? Is that done?
It's done.
Yeah.
You know what I heard
Until
about?
they're done.
Did you hear the thing about that stadium where if you're on like the third or fourth level, you can like freely smoke up there?
Yeah.
Like anything you want to. Yeah, it's crazy. Just having like a club section, like a legitimate club section.
What's the owner's name? Steve
Ballmer.
Yeah,
He's
he's
a
that.
So, oh my gosh, I did it again! Oh my gosh, Cruz, come on.
He has
The guy who does the freaking
The crazy
Yeah.
arms.
dances and stuff. Oh my gosh. Oh man. You know it's getting toward the end of the pod when I'm starting to throw that crap around.
They you put like stuff in the stands to where like if you scream loud enough during the game, they'll give you free hot dog or
Something like that.
That's crazy.
He's really
I
trying.
love
They have
Steve
like
Ballmer.
1 million bathrooms in there or something like that.
What he's done for basketball is so awesome.
Yeah.
It's just he unfortunately chose two superstars that can't stay healthy and couldn't mesh correctly.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer will win a title with the Clippers, though.
Yeah. You think so?
Dude, he's gonna spend so much money.
They gave all their picks to the Thunder. Like not I don't think in the near future they're winning anything.
He'll be around for a while.
Steve Ballmer's not that old. He's like early 60s and he's
He'll be
super
around.
rich. Like he'll live until he's like 90.
We'll see.
He'll win a title.
I'm just gonna go ahead and start our dog tree segment now because I'm going off the rails. It's gonna be a fun NBA season. I have a fantasy basketball team that I will be keeping up with, and obviously I've talked before on this podcast about how my Chicago Bulls are just
What
terrible
they are.
because of their owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, who is killing the entire city for no reason at all. And so I'm going to start off our dog tree segment this week by talking about something I have to do this weekend. So I will not, unfortunately, be at my volleyball post this weekend because I am going to be the best man in one of my best friend's wedding on Saturday. And it's going to be an interesting weekend for a lot of reasons. But as you guys know, I'm a big college football fan. And he knows this. I mean, I've told him this. I am vehemently against fall weddings. I think if you have, and that's when most people have them too, by the way. If you have a fall wedding, I think that is one of the more ignorant things you can do, especially for people that work in our business. That's like quite literally a fall Saturday is the busiest time of the year. Really, no matter what sport you want to talk about, whether it's football, volleyball, whatever. But because of this, I want to know from the people and also from you guys, A, when was the last time you were at a wedding, if you've ever been to a wedding? And B, what am I allowed? Now, I am the best man, so I have to give a speech, I have to do the whole shebang. How much am I allowed to do in terms of a setup for how many games I can watch at once while I'm sitting at the table? Can I watch games?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think you
Like,
can.
I'm sitting at the head table, right? We're eating dinner. I can't put, like, Penn State, Wisconsin, or Texas A&M, LSU.
If you have
right
like a
here.
nice name tag that'll hold your phone up, that's the only way that you can.
So I can't, like, be holding it with
No,
my hands
you
up.
cannot have it in your hand.
Okay, well, that's
watching
fine.
football
I wasn't
anytime
going to do
during
that. I wasn't going to do that.
You're gonna be so preoccupied being the best man, and I've never even been to a wedding, but like you're gonna be so busy with all the different stuff that you have to take care of. I don't think you'll be able to even like spend that much time.
Let me just say this. You should be thanking God every day you get a wedding. I'll just say this.
Yeah.
I'll just say this. Ryan, have you been to a wedding?
I was actually at a wedding back in August.
Okay,
Yeah.
so wedding culture is a cult.
It is.
Especially like when you're like, I am not. I'll just say this. I am not prepared for what I'm gonna have to deal with this weekend. Like I'm not mentally there. It's gonna be one heck of a weekend for a lot of different reasons, and I mean that in the best and worst way possible. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. So and this is one of the toughest things to do as a sports fan. It's like there are games on that you want to watch. But yeah, I mean I probably will be pretty preoccupied, but I don't know.
Yeah.
At least I got some feedback on that. Now I'm like depressed, knowing that I'm gonna miss everything. Thankfully, Ohio State plays at 11. Right? The wedding's at like 4:30.
Oh, dude, you're fine.
So I ain't gonna miss
while
that.
you're getting dressed and stuff.
So I ain't gonna miss that part. But like LSU A&M, come on, man. Penn State, Wisconsin. And that's the other thing too. Is my buddy who's getting married. Shout out to Braden, but like I know he's not a college football guy, so it's like if I'm gonna do this, it has to be extremely discreet and just I don't know. We'll figure something out. I'll be able to watch it, but just wanted to get that feedback. So thanks guys. Thanks for that.
So my dog treat is going to be really fast, really easy. Okay. So Jordan, I'm going to ask how much would it cost for you to become. Okay, for start, who would you say Ohio State's biggest rival is? Michigan.
I think you know the answer to that.
Yeah, Michigan.
That's
Okay.
up north.
So Jordan, give me a dollar amount and one sentence explaining why it's that much. Realistically, and let's be realistic here, how much it would cost for you to become a Michigan fan for just one season. One season, but you have to be all in on Michigan.
For one season. I thought you were about to stay for the rest of my life.
No.
For
One
one
season.
season, I have to watch every single game. I have to pretend like I hate. Well, that's the thing is it would be so hard to put this into practice because I would just be low key rooting for them to lose. But if it was actually possible, to do
Gun
that,
to your head, but you're gonna get the money because the gun's to your head.
okay, put it like that. I mean, it'd have to be a lot. I'd say probably $1 million. I mean,
Really?
Oh yeah. I don't know. I guess if it's only for 1 year, maybe we'll down it to $100,000 maybe. If it's only for a year, give me $100,000, I'll do it.
All right.
That would be worth it.
Howard, what would the team be that you have to flip to, and how much money?
It'll be the 49ers for sure.
All right.
They would win too.
Yeah.
They would win.
So is it a thing where your brain switches to when
Yes.
you're actually a 49ers fan?
Yes. There's
Oh my
a
gosh.
switch flipped in your brain. You are not a Seahawks fan anymore.
The thing is
Just for a year.
and then when it's over,
Switch flips
You-
back off.
you
You
get
can
the
hate
money.
the 49ers.
See, that would be funny to
And you get the
just
money.
switch back to your real team and
And then,
look at all the stuff that you've said. Look at pictures of you wearing the other team's
Uh-huh.
gear. Oh, I'd throw up.
in that case, I would say $500,000
$500,000.
because
This is insane.
because they are good to where they can actually win a Super Bowl.
Right.
but the adrenaline rush that I would get from like, what would it be? I guess the Super Bowl and they'd lose to like the Chiefs or something, and then the next day I wake up and be a Seahawks fan and I'll be gritting on their grave. So it's like that would be a pretty awesome ride as long as they lose, of course. So
Right.
I would say $500,000 just for that. Me having to watch them win up to losing. That would be great.
All right.
It's a good dog.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah. Bears. Vikings.
Dude, honestly, I think I'd have to say the 49ers too. Just for the emotional distress that they've caused. And when I say emotional distress, I mean like driving around Carbondale. Like when the Packers lost last fall, I literally drove for like 2.5 hours that night.
Seething.
Just because I couldn't do anything else. Like that was the only thing that I could like stay calm and like not do something dumb and like put my fist through a wall or something.
Yeah.
So like I just had to drive. That was it.
I feel that.
Probably, I feel like I could be swayed for less. Honestly,
Really?
I think I could.
Yeah,
probably
the
do
more
like,
I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, it really take you that
Like,
much.
50,000.
100,000 is ridiculous.
I think
That's a good point. It's
50,000.
just
And just for 1 year, too.
1
now,
year?
if you said the rest of my life, $1 million minimum.
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
Minimum.
Yeah.
If I,
Yeah.
Especially if it guns to my head.
yeah.
That's my life.
The thing is, there's real hatred for me for the 49ers.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like-
Oh, me too.
Like,
Me too.
I think I enjoy their losses more than I enjoy Seahawks wins this point. Like, it's like yesterday, I was a Chiefs fan. In the Super Bowl, when they're playing, I'm a Chiefs fan. So it's like, it would take a lot for me to actually do that. That's crazy. That's a really good question. Right?
Yeah.
Thinking everything. My dog treat is, I guess, the differences in like injuries in the sports world. When Aiden Hutchinson went down last week, it just like struck me to like, man, this guy worked since he was a kid, went through the high school, college, made it to the NFL, was putting together his best season by far, was in the runners for Defensive Player of the Year, and then he broke his leg.
Yeah.
And now he just has to rehab and work back to get. Will he even be at that point for a player to even put up those type of stats, those type of numbers, that type of performance again? Comparing it to like, I don't know, we fall off a tree or something for non-athletes and we break our leg, and just the differences in life, I guess that is when you think about it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Deshaun Watson again. He tore his ACL. And
Achilles.
his Achilles, my bad. And all the different stuff that he's had going on in his life the last 5 or so years, and for a whole stadium to boo him. And then it's so crazy. And then like imagine if we tore our Achilles and what that would put our hamper on our work lives, our school lives, and all that type of stuff. So
Wouldn't have to do that much, though.
that's what I'm like.
Yeah.
Yeah, an Achilles, like you get it repaired,
Yeah.
and then you're just in a boot.
Yeah.
That's about it.
That's fun. That's the craziest thing you see in school too. It's just like girls walking around with a boot on their leg or something.
Yeah,
like
for
that.
real, because they like tripped down the stairs once or
Yeah.
something. The freaking knee pads, or the knee braces that they wear all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny is I thought I would see more of that working with the volleyball team as much as I have. I don't see them ever doing that stuff.
No,
I think
because
it's
they're
not-
real
I
athletes.
think it's just a high school thing. I think it's just like
It's definitely a
high school girls just love wearing those knee braces, and then like the next day it's gone. It's like, oh, so you weren't actually that hurt.
I've never broken anything in my life.
Really? Oh, God
Like
bless you.
the last time I remember having like an emergency necessarily was like, I remember when I was like 4 and I stuffed a cotton ball up in my nose and I couldn't get it out and I had to go to the emergency. That's like the only thing. Like I haven't
Clean bill of health the next 18 years.
Yeah, I have not broken anything, like sprained. Maybe I sprained something playing basketball or something, but like I didn't have to go to the hospital. Like I just let it
Off.
chill. Yeah, so
Pretty sure what broken have you broke? I assume you've broken several.
I've actually broken none.
Really?
Yeah. There was a question.
Mr. Waterski guy hasn't broken any bone.
No,
Which
I
I
haven't.
guess that's not really a sport where you break
No,
something.
soccer, I had to go to convenient care and I had to get an x-ray on my foot one time because I got slid into studs up and it just like killed the nerves in my foot. Like I just had no feeling in my foot
Oh, yeah.
for a couple days. And that was weird and somewhat concerning, but it was fine. Like nothing happened. And then the knee thing that I've been dealing with for a while.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Like that was probably the worst thing just for how long it was like drawn out and painful and a problem.
Yeah. This man is a walking copperfit.
I actually have not
advertisement.
been wearing it for like the last week.
Oh, no.
Like I'm pretty much
you good now?
ish.
We'll
Like
get there.
I wouldn't like ski hard on it yet.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't jump on it again, but like it's fine for
Yeah.
walking now.
The only thing I broke was I had it was like a little hairline fracture in my foot when I was playing basketball. I stepped on my friend's foot and I just turned like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in a boot for like 2 or 3 months, I think. But after that, it was fine. Yeah. Good pod. What an episode. What an episode. If you're listening to us on the Spotify, please be sure to check out the new YouTube channel. It's at insiDE Sports. Thank you to EP, executive producer Will, for taking us home this week's podcast. He said he was going to start editing on Wednesday, so we're going to hope to get it out Thursday. That's always the goal, but obviously, I mean, I'll just say this. For editor Will, they are hampering him with a lot of extra things that he did not anticipate on doing this year, but he's working really, really hard. So we really appreciate him for doing this. We're going to try to get it on Thursday, but of course, Saturday is the typical release date. For Howard Woodard, for Ryan Grazer, this is Jordan Cruz signing off. We'll see you next week. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.